And what do you miss the least?
I don't know. These are high-class problems to talk about things like that.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
I'm glad to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with education campaigner Malala Yousafzai, the tennis icon Bjorn Borg, and the President of Botswana, Duma Boko. Until the next time, goodbye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg in our studios here at CBC, and thanks for joining us. 3 minutes to 6. Your morning show's on till 8:37 a.m., and we're grateful to be with you. So here I am hosting the show. I'm not alone. Let's meet the team. Corey Funk directs the program. Morning, Corey. Corey also covers the commute on the air, so we'll hear from him. Covering the weather on the air, Mr. Abby Adeyemi. Good morning, Abby. Abby's behind the controls today. And our YouTube producer, in case you watch the show visually while you're listening, is Mr. Darren Marash. And good morning to you, Darren. In Winnipeg, still wet out there, but that rain should end this morning. And then a high of 9 degrees. We will have a mainly cloudy day ahead in Winnipeg. Brandon clearing late this morning, high of 9. And also in Thompson this morning, cloudy, but a high of 7 degrees. So the rain will have moved on later today. Let's get into the news headlines. Here now is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, the Union for Manitoba Nurses says nurses are stretched thin and are overworked. In a social media post, the union says Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity. It meant many in the ER had to wait hours for care, and some were even redirected to Children's Hospital. Union President Darlene Jackson says the work environment for nurses is not healthy. Well, I don't know how many people are going to wake up bleary-eyed after last night. The Toronto Blue Jays and Los Angeles Dodgers in the longest game in World Series history. 18 innings it took for the Jays to lose to the Dodgers. 6-5 was the final. That game, though, lasted almost 7 hours. We're going to hear all about it coming up on World Report and in your next local news coming up at 6:30.
I did pretty well. I think my last eye open was 11:45.
Oh, wow.
But I was mostly sleeping on the couch. You know what? The Jays are the real deal. You're hanging in that many innings with the Dodgers. They've got home field advantage. It's so easy for just one crack of the bat, like Freddie did last night, to win the game. But wow, you know,
they were. You know what? When Kirk? I can't think of his name. The catcher,
Alejandro Kirk. Yeah.
When Kirk hit that ball and it was a 3-run homer, I thought, oh my goodness, this is great.
Yeah. I know. All right. We'll see what happens tonight. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
It's supposed to be tough. It is the World Series. All right. World Report is coming up. We're going to hear the very latest. A lot of people watching Jamaica, of course, one of the worst storms we've ever seen in the world. Stay tuned.
Today on Q. The writer, producer, and director Judd Apatow is behind some of the most beloved comedies of the last couple of decades. The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I have a very fulfilling life.
Knocked Up, Step Brothers.
I'm ready to take on the Catalina wine mixer.
Judd has a new memoir, and he'll be here to tell you how a nerdy kid ended up changing the face of comedy.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth. People in Jamaica are being told to immediately seek shelter from Hurricane Melissa. The Category 5 storm is expected to make landfall today.
Based on what we have heard, I have seen and heard that it's going to be very catastrophic.
This woman manages a shelter in Montego Bay. She's urging people to gather food and essential medications and to get to safety. Hurricane Melissa is so severe, it is expected to pummel the island with catastrophic flash flooding and storm surge. It could be the strongest storm ever recorded in Jamaica. Freelance reporter Nick Davis has more.
Hurricane Melissa is slowly turning inland towards Jamaica, but as the storm continues west, it's placed areas that were expecting heavy impact to lessen in severity and others to now face the full brunt of this Category 5 hurricane. The drift has allowed it to build in intensity over the sea and take the capital, Kingston, home to nearly 1 million people out of the impact area and the major wind field. Instead, areas along the south coast, the central rural communities in the interior and the coastal resort areas like Neguro and Montego Bay are expected to see greater hurricane conditions. With much of the emergency response based around the capital, this could leave some communities isolated for days and without power for weeks.
Freelance reporter Nick Davis in Kingston. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement. He said the remains of the hostage returned yesterday are actually the body parts of a hostage who was recovered by Israeli troops almost 2 years ago. There are still 13 bodies of hostages in Gaza. The slow recovery of those remains is delaying the next stages of the ceasefire. Hamas says it is struggling to locate the bodies amid the vast destruction in Gaza. Israel says the militant group is purposely delaying their return. To news here at home, the Alberta government says teachers must go back to work. In the early hours this morning, Premier Daniel Smith's government passed Bill 2 to order 51,000 striking educators back into the classrooms, and it used the Charter's notwithstanding clause to do it. Here's more from Julia Wong.
It also invokes the notwithstanding clause to help ensure stability for the school system moving forward.
Boos and jeers as the Alberta government tables Bill 2 to force 51,000 striking teachers back to work, ending a 3-week-long strike that has kept about 750,000 students home.
I know this has been an incredibly difficult start to the school year for students who have already experienced too many disruptions.
The province will impose the last contract offer teachers overwhelmingly rejected, and it's using the notwithstanding clause to protect the bill from a charter challenge. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith.
And this is a unique strike. We've never had 51,000 workers off the job at the same time.
The Alberta Teachers Association is angry and exploring legal options, says President Jason Schilling.
And I'll tell you right now, if they think by what they have done here today is going to quiet down the tens of thousands of voices of teachers across this province, then they're sorely mistaken.
The Alberta Federation of Labour calls it an assault on workers' rights. President Gil McGowan says it's considering province-wide job action.
This is not a war that we chose, but make no mistake, this government has declared war on working people, not just in this province, but across the country.
The Alberta government says teachers could face fines if they do not comply. Students and teachers are expected to be back in schools Wednesday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
People who live at Ontario's training schools are suing the province. They say physical and sexual abuse was rampant at the facilities that were essentially detention centres for children. Nearly 8 years after a class action lawsuit was launched, the case is still stuck in the civil system. As Michelle Allen reports, plaintiffs and lawyers say the lawsuit is another casualty of underfunded courts.
There was a lot of abuse, and some people were destroyed by it.
Paul Grimston says he was 13 years old when he was sent to Brookside School in Cobourg, Ontario.
The problem is that it never leaves you.
He's one of thousands of children sent to detention centres intended to straighten out children labelled unmanageable, who were struggling in school or accused of petty crimes like vandalism. Former students launched a class action lawsuit against Ontario in 2017. It's been nearly 8 years. They haven't got an apology or settlement yet. The province declined to comment on the case, but denied all liability in its statement of defense. Andrew Eckhart is a lawyer at the Class Action Clinic at the University of Windsor.
We're under-resourced. We just need to hire more judges.
He says class actions like this one often take 5 to 10 years or longer. Kirk Keeping was the original lead plaintiff. He died waiting. Eckhart says this is common.
And he never ever got an apology for anything that happened to him, and it wrecked his life.
Keeping's sister, Paula Lacoste, says she wonders if the class action did survivors more harm than good.
Oh, did my brother do this for nothing? Like, did it bring up now their trauma again after so many years of shelving it away?
Lacoste says the court system needs to change. Without funding increases to hire more court staff, Eckhart says training school survivors still have a long wait ahead of them. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Thunder Bay.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is on the second leg of his Indo-Pacific tour. He's in Singapore, where he's already met with top government investment officials. And later this week, Carney meets with Chinese President Xi Jinping. As Mary Brewster reports, the Prime Minister hopes that meeting will help reset Canada-China relations.
It's the start of
a broader discussion.
That is how Prime Minister Mark Carney describes his upcoming meeting with China's Xi Jinping at the APEC summit. It's been a long time in coming. The last official meeting between a Canadian Prime Minister and China's top politician was in 2017, before relations went into a deep freeze over the arrest of a top Chinese tech executive, the detention of 2 Canadians, and before the latest trade fight, which has seen both Canada and China impose tariffs on one another over electric vehicles and canola. Carney is hoping for a reset.
Relationships rebuild over time when they have been when they have changed for the worse, and so we have a lot of areas on which we can build.
Much of what Carney hopes to accomplish, though, has the potential to be overshadowed or upended by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump is also expected to meet Xi at the APEC summit, as the U.S. and China have agreed on a framework to settle their trade dispute, a deal that could have global implications. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Singapore.
Going to go down as one of the great prime ministers you watch. Thank you.
U.S. President Donald Trump praising Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi as they arrive at the Yokosuka Naval Base. Trump is making a stop in Japan ahead of the APEC summit later this week. A key part of this visit, beginning to build a relationship with the new Prime Minister, while Takaichi is also aiming to protect Japan's economic interests. Both leaders today signed the implementation of a trade agreement between the nations. It reaffirmed the earlier framework by which the U.S. would tax imported Japanese goods at 15% and the creation of a $550 billion fund for Japan to invest in the United States. Well, it took 6 hours and 39 minutes, but the Los Angeles Dodgers now lead 2-1 over the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. Last night's game matches the longest ever in World Series history, going 18 innings. Toronto will now look to bounce back and even the series out tonight in L.A. Thomas Dagla has more from Dodger Stadium.
After 18 innings of baseball and in front of a stadium full of bleary-eyed fans, Freddie Freeman walked it off. Last year's World Series MVP, born to Canadian parents, Freeman blasted a solo homer to center field, claiming Game 3 for the Dodgers 6-5.
Oh my gosh, just pure excitement.
Freeman's game winner capped off a marathon that lasted longer than 2 average big league games combined. A heartbreaking outcome for the Blue Jays, who earlier in the game saw slugger George Springer leave with pain in his right side. Jays manager John Schneider.
The Dodgers didn't win the World Series today. They won a game. You know what I mean?
Amid it all, the sport's biggest star, Shohei Ohtani, belted 4 extra base hits, a feat unseen in the World Series since 1906. I want to go to sleep as soon as possible, he joked afterward. And no wonder. Ohtani is set to start on the mound in Game 4 tonight. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Los Angeles.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. If you're enjoying the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, live from downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for being here this morning. Our rain will soon end. Still a little drizzly out there right now. Let's talk about Hurricane Melissa. Everyone watching Jamaica today. Robert Collins is there. He is a Winnipegger. In fact, he shared just now with our morning show director, Corey Funk, that he just had his quote-unquote hurricane vigil with his teenage daughter, who is here. He found himself in Jamaica caring for a family, and now he's hunkering down as Hurricane Melissa is about to enter the country. So we're going to hear more from him live. He's just hooking up via Zoom with us today, so stay tuned for that interview. Also this hour on the show, doctors are warning that opioid use among young Canadians is rising quickly, especially in high school. We're going to talk about what needs to be done to try and help the youngest Canadians. And in Manitoba, as you know, last year, a report coming out, opioid-related deaths increased nearly five-fold in Manitoba between 2019 and 2021. And the most severe rise in overdose deaths among those aged 30 to 39 was in our Prairie province when they looked at national data. So that interview has high local interest. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells with other stories with high local interest and the developments. Here she is with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, Premier Wab Kinew says Manitoba is planning 3 mega projects, which he says could generate a combined $30 billion in economic activity. That's more than a third of Manitoba's existing GDP. Kinew makes the claim on a podcast that aired on Saturday. He says the Port of Churchill is one of the projects, but would not name the other two, although he does say they are related to energy. No membership card required at Niverville's First Library. The southeast Manitoba town just south of Winnipeg is taking the little free library concept to the next level. At this library in Niverville, everyone's invited to take any book they like, and they're asked to leave behind books they're done with. The town of 6,000 does hope to one day have a full municipal library, but we'll take you there and hear how people are receiving that library in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's go to Abby Adiyemi now, who has our details on the end of a really wet system.
Yeah, wet system came through. Some areas still seeing drizzle, but that's already tapering off this morning. Now, as the day goes on, the skies will stay mostly cloudy and a bit of breeze. It's going to feel kind of cool for a day. You know, that would settle in, though the northern part of the province is still going to stay mostly dry. Just a few brighter breaks in the clouds later on. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 6 degrees, 7 degrees, depending on where you are. And we're seeing that rain, and it will leave behind cloudy skies, as mentioned, with some light northwest breeze. And we get to about a high of 9 degrees later today. And that's the similar conditions we'll be seeing in other southern parts of the province, starting around the same temperature we are having now, 6 to 7 degrees across board, warming up close to 9, 10 degrees. But Winnipeg, we are at 6, and the rain is tapering off.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's go to Corey Funk now, just to get ready for the commute. Hi, Corey.
Quiet but wet commute so far here in Winnipeg. Haven't heard of any major issues yet, but if you do hear something, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as you've just been hearing, Hurricane Melissa intensified to a Category 5 storm last night. It's drawing closer to Jamaica right now. Forecasters expect it will unleash catastrophic flooding, landslides, and widespread damage. If it stays at a Category 5, this would be the strongest hurricane to hit the island since record-keeping started in 1851. This will also be one of the strongest storms that we've seen in the world. So people there are being told to seek shelter. Some are being evacuated from different areas. Some are allowed to hunker down, and that is where I find my next guest. As I mentioned, his name is Robert Collins. He is a Winnipegger, but he finds himself back in Jamaica. He's in St. Andrew this morning. He's caring for his mother and sick sister, and they are in the west, and they are overlooking Kingston, and he has given us some time to join us via Zoom. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
What's it like for you just emotionally there, Robert, waiting for all of this? How you doing?
Well, you know, I just got off the phone with my daughter, Haley, in Winnipeg. She's 19. And, well, I'd first like to say good morning to all the listeners out there. I am right now, for those who are tuned in on radio, on radio, you won't see this, but on your YouTube link, you should be able to see I'm overlooking Kingston, the city right now. And it's a very ominous feeling because, you know, there's a fear of what is to come. It's a very slow moving hurricane. Right now, there's random gust of winds, as you can probably see on the camera. But it's a very fearful feeling. As a nation, Jamaica is not ready for this in terms of our agriculture, our tourism, which is the lifeblood of our country. It's concerning, but you know, we're resilient people and we're here. We've done the best we can in terms of preparation. securing all our possessions, business, personal. So we're here.
Thank you for taking the camera around. You're quite right. What you're showing us is overlooking Kingston and then out there into the water, the ocean, and the trees starting to bend just as those gusts of winds come up and down. Robert, you talked about preparations. You're in the west. This is the farming part of Jamaica. First, before I ask you what the bigger impact could be if it gets bad, but how have you prepared? Yeah. Can you turn around and show us the house? Like, have you shuttered up the windows, or what have you been doing there?
Yeah, so we have a balcony right here up there. So we've removed everything from on that balcony and we've boarded it up with 2x4s and plywood. For the most part, we have just secured. I mean, everything is to really lock it down. That is really the weak spot, which is the balcony.
Got it.
That's where typically we've had problems before with Gilbert, going back as far as Gilbert in, I believe it was 88 or 89.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because Category 4 hasn't made landfall where you are in 174 years. Gilbert, as bad as it was a Category 3, and it was 1988. Last year, 2024, was Beryl, and it was lower. How nervous are you if this is going to come at this force about what it will mean for Jamaica? Let's talk about the economy and the farmland now.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be intense. We've just had the incumbent party, the JLP, return to leadership in terms of the country. So hopefully they will have a handle on responses and would have had the foresight to make the necessary preparations. Everything coming out of the media says that, you know, as a country, we're getting ready as best as we can. Just one correction, we are more on the eastern side of the country. The western side is near Negril, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. That is where the core of the eye is going to really be passing. I am on the eastern side of the country, the more eastern side. So where Kingston and St. Andrew is more to the east.
I mixed up my directions.
That's fine. That's fine.
You talked about your teenage daughter here. You have two teenagers actually here at home.
Yes. What's my son Chase?
What's this like for your family, Robert? That you're there with this storm approaching?
Well, they've never really been through a hurricane. So I think what they're seeing is from TikTok and they're learning it. You know, I think that for the most part, the 15-year-old, he thinks there's probably going to be a day off from school, a lot of rain. And for the 19-year-old, I think she's doing her research as what this means for the country. You know, there's possibility that we're certainly going to lose a lot of our community.
I think Robert's feed is just frozen. We'll just wait a second because sometimes with these links it comes back up. If it does, you guys, I'm just talking to my control room peeps here. If it does, Abby Corey, you know, we can just put him back on. Maybe if he loses the visual, the audio will come back on and we can continue talking to Robert. And if not, we can certainly touch base with him later in the morning as we have connected with Robert Collins. He is a Winnipegger, but he is in Jamaica. He's in St. Andrew, Jamaica, and my mistake, east side of the country. And we're just talking to him about how he's affected. Now, Robert, you're back with us here. You're there caring. Yeah. You're there caring for your mother and a sick sister, I understand. So,
yes.
What's the possibility you may have to be evacuated? How concerned are you about that, especially given that you have people that are ill?
Yeah, it's very concerning, very worrying. My sister, she had a brain aneurysm, and that was followed by a series of strokes. So she certainly has been impacted by that. We're doing the best that we can. She's a very resilient person. If you know my sister, she is somebody that rises to the occasion on every step of the way. My mom also, she's in her 80s, late 80s, and she believes in hard work. So this for them is another obstacle that life has brought, and we're going to get through it. That's the philosophy that the family has. And that's what we're going to stay positive to that, you know.
I love
the
that.
hurricane hasn't hit us completely yet where we are. So, you know, where there's hope, there's possibility.
I think that's a good way to end our conversation, with that hope. If we may, we'll check in with you a little bit later, and sending all the good vibes your way as this thing gets closer to Jamaica. Thank you very much for being with us, Robert.
All right, Winnipeg. See you soon.
See you soon. We'll talk to you later in the day. Grateful for Robert Collins, who's up early with us and on camera, even outside, showing us what it looks like in Jamaica to this hour. Robert's a Winnipegger. He's in Jamaica caring for family members. He's in St. Andrew, which is on the east side of Jamaica. There have been areas where there's evacuation orders already, as a storm surge of up to 4 meters is expected along coastal Kingston.
What kind of person takes on the law? Can they ever really know what they're getting into?
A really tough-looking guy came up to us and said, "Are you part of this gay case?"
My family started getting death threats. I wasn't able to go outside alone anymore.
I'm Phelan Johnson, host of See You in Court, a new podcast about the cases that changed Canada and the ordinary people who made history.
This is David and Goliath we have here.
See You in Court, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
6:22 a.m. is the time right now. The rain here in Winnipeg will end early this morning, a high of 9 degrees for us in the forecast today. Currently looking around the province, it's still a bit of a mixed bag this morning. So there's still light rain falling in Gillam and in Island Lake area. There's fog up in Thompson. And in Winnipeg now we're cloudy, and it is 6 degrees currently. Well, next on the show, as I was mentioning, the latest statistics that came out last year about Manitoba opioid-related deaths showed they increased nearly fivefold between 2019 and 2021. And among the three prairie provinces, Manitoba saw the most severe rise in overdose deaths among those aged 30 to 39. There is a new editorial today in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. It warns that opioid use among young Canadians is rising quickly, echoing what we found here in our province. The authors say addiction services for youth are also limited, and they're hard for families to find. They're urging provinces to invest in better treatment and prevention before the crisis worsens. And to talk about it, Dr. Sean Kelly is here via Zoom, pediatrician and adolescent addiction specialist. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Marcy.
Thanks for being with us. So why is the alarm being raised right now about opioid use on young Canadians? And when we say young, what are we talking about? How young?
So we're talking about high school and we're talking about adolescence. And so one of the pieces of data that has helped raise the alarm has been the Ontario Student Drug Use and Health Survey. And this is a biannual survey that does a pretty good job of assessing the risk and sort of observing the patterns of what's being used in high schools. And so what they saw was that between 2021 and 2023, a nearly doubling of prescription opioid use. And so it sounds like perhaps the word has gotten out a little bit about fentanyl and the other highly potent synthetic opioids. But unfortunately, something has filled the gap and then some. And what we have is an increased use of opioids, specifically these prescribed opioids, in this age group. And the most scary part of this data is that it skews quite young. It's those in grades 7 to 9 that are more likely to be using these types of opioids than those in grades 10 to 12. And so, and this matches up very nicely with the clinical experience that I've been alarmed to see in my own clinic. And so I've always sadly had sort of extremes of age and dealt with 13-year-olds with opioid use disorder. But what I'm seeing is that median age is decreasing. And there's been a significant culture change too. So typically we think of the big three in high school. We think of alcohol, cannabis, and nicotine. And then there are some other things that do come and go, and they're sort of the drugs on the fringe of what we're seeing. And unfortunately now, hydromorphone or Dilaudid or Dillies has now become one of those fringe cases that is sort of edging towards the mainstream. And it is a very frightening situation for me as a treater.
Are there regions or age groups that are being hit harder?
Well, it is that younger age group, that sort of grades 7 to 9.
Oh, sorry, you just explained that. What about regions? I should have stopped at regions.
So we do see there are some scary regional statistics, and we did see that a few years ago in BC, opioid overdose became one of the leading causes of death for youth from ages 12 to 19. I believe, sorry, I may have that, or 15 to 18, pardon me, I want to get that right. And so what we've seen is that, specifically there are some geographic differences, but this is a cross-national problem and something that we're all going to have to reckon with.
Where are the biggest gaps then in the current support system for young people this young? Now, we're talking grades 7 to 9, Dr. Kelly's saying. Where are the biggest gaps in support for that age group then?
Okay, so we have two major pieces of support that we can give to people in this age group. Number one is medications for opioid use disorder. These are things like buprenorphine or Suboxone or the other brand names, and methadone. And so these medications for opioid use disorder are the first line therapy for anyone of any age dealing with opioid use disorder. There was a period of time when these were reserved for adults. That's no longer appropriate given the overdose risk that happens. And these are life-saving and protecting medications, that can prevent overdose when used appropriately in any aged population. And so those medications for opioid use disorder are absolutely first line and paramount. And unfortunately, during this time where we've seen increases in youth use of opioids, we've seen a decrease in the prescriptions of medications for opioid use disorder prescribed to young people.
And can you tell us why that's happening? Why would that happen? If the use is up and the prescription's down, we're just worried about young people getting hooked on the solution in the moment, or why is that happening?
So there are significant barriers that perception and that carryover from the stigma is likely one of them. But there is a difficulty to train providers and have people have comfort in two areas. And unfortunately, the Venn diagram of these two areas has not overlapped as significantly as it should. We have pediatrics providers who are people who treat and deal with youth. This includes pediatricians, family doctors, NPs, and PAs, and a whole lot of other allied health. But this group of people tends not to have a great deal of experience or comfort in using these medications for opioid use disorder. The people who do have the comfort with medications for opioid use disorder tend to treat adults and have less comfort with treating youth. And what we really need to do is create a training situation where those who are treating youth become comfortable using these medications for opioid use disorder, and those who are comfortable with the medications become comfortable in treating youth and helping to address the whole picture, that holistic picture that we need to do to effectively treat our youth with substance use disorder and other mental health conditions.
In our last minute, what do you see as the role of, obviously governments, but also schools, given the ages we're talking about?
So what we need to do, I think the schools have done excellent work, teachers, guidance counselors, the drug counselors embedded at school, identifying kids who are at risk. We need to create a pipeline where the identification of risk can lead directly to specialized treatment. And this is a real opportunity. We've been dealing with the opioid and overdose crises for a long time, and there's a lot of blood on the ground from the societal wound. And at this moment, if we put resources, attention, and action, we can put pressure on the wound and stop the bleeding and change the trajectory of what this is going to look like within the next 5 years.
Thank you for being with us this morning, although for a really stressful reason to hear how young those kids are. Appreciate your time, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you for having me here, Marcy.
So that is Dr. Sean Kelly with us live via Zoom, a pediatrician and adolescent addiction specialist, raising the alarm on opioid use among, kids. Right now it is coming up to 6:30. We'll get the latest in the news. If you need us on the commute, 788-3093. We also have business news ahead. New details are emerging about that ad that we're all talking about. It seems to have scuttled U.S.-Canada trade talks, the one with Ronald Reagan's voice in it. We're going to find out the latest from Hallie Cottenham right after our local news here. And I do just want to mention that in Winnipeg, that rain, at least downtown, for the moment continues. Looks like, rather, it has stopped, and that should continue through the day. We'll have more after your news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. And yes, it seems like you can put your umbrella away for now, at least. The rain ending this morning, then cloudy. Still a bit of a northwest breeze, but we're warmer than seasonal with a high this afternoon of 9. Manitoba's premier says the province is working on 3 mega projects that will bring in a combined $30 billion of economic activity. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, Wob Canoe won't say what 2 of the projects are.
Speaking to podcaster David Hurley, Canoe said Manitoba has 3 major projects on the horizon.
One that we're almost certainly going to do, a second that we're trying to put the financing piece together, and then the third, which has been very public, is the Port of Churchill.
Canoe suggested these projects could wean Manitoba off federal transfer payments in 5 to 10 years. In a scrum with reporters on Monday, he said the projects could generate $30 billion for the province. That's more than a third of Manitoba's GDP. But the Port of Churchill expansion requires federal cash, and Canoe refused to identify the other 2 projects.
They are in the energy space, but when we're ready to roll things out, we'll make sure that you all are the first to know.
Opposition leader Abi Khan isn't impressed.
It's another big flashy announcement by their premier with absolutely no backing, no dates, no timelines, no plan.
Canoe suggested he'll say more when he delivers his State of the Province speech in December. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Union for Manitoba Nurses says nurses are stretched thin and overworked. In a social media post, the union says Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity. That meant many in the ER had to wait hours for care, and some were redirected to Children's Hospital. Union President Darlene Jackson says the work environment for nurses isn't healthy.
Speaking to podcast.
Undoubtedly, you can imagine they are exhausted and desperately seeking a light at the end of a tunnel, because it's almost impossible to continue to work at that pace without having some type of respite.
Shared Health says patient volumes at HSCER were significantly higher than usual last Tuesday. An internal surge was declared after the highest acuity beds were filled. Shared Health says it understands the anxiety waiting for emergency care can cause, but it also says people shouldn't hesitate to go to the ER if they need help. To Jamaica and the approach of Hurricane Melissa.
I have seen and heard that it's going to be very catastrophic.
The manager of an emergency shelter in Montego Bay. The hurricane, now a Category 5, is set to make land at some point this morning with sustained winds of 280 kilometers an hour and intense rainfall. It is being called the most powerful storm on the planet this year. The island nation's 2.8 million people are being urged to gather food and essential medication and to be prepared for extended periods without power. Flash flooding and storm surge are also a concern with Melissa, which grew from just a tropical storm into a monster Category 5 in a matter of just days. Alberta's United Conservative government passed a bill overnight to force 51,000 striking teachers back to work. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith wants teachers back in the classroom tomorrow, and she's invoking the notwithstanding clause of the Canadian Constitution to shield the legislation from court challenges.
We know and feel like this is the right bargaining decision. So I would just hope that people would look at their own personal circumstances and just give an honest assessment of whether they think it's fair. Most of the parents I talk to, they think it's fair. Many of the teachers who've contacted us, they think it's fair. And I think most of all, it's fair to the students who are the ones who are most impacted.
The Alberta teachers' strike began October 6th. It affects public, Catholic, and French schools in the province. Well, no membership card is required at Niverville's first library. The southeast Manitoba town just south of Winnipeg is taking the Little Free Library concept to the next level. At this library, everyone's invited to take any book they'd like, and they're asked to leave behind books they're done with. Christina Cron was at the grand opening last night with her 4 kids.
That's a really great addition for really young, and it's just nice to have something like that's no screens, that children can read and use their imaginations and get lost in a world of books.
The town of 6,000 hopes to one day have a full municipal library. Niverville is part of a group of about a dozen municipalities in southeast Manitoba looking at regionalizing library services. Well, it was one of the longest games in World Series history, but it didn't end well for the Toronto Blue Jays.
The Dodgers win it, and they take a 2-1 lead in the World Series.
It took 18 innings, almost 7 hours for Game 3 to be decided, with Freddie Freeman, the hero for L.A., his solo home run giving the Dodgers a 6-5 victory after a 2-1 series lead. Now, with a quick turnaround, the two teams do it again tonight. Shane Bieber starts Game 4 for Toronto, and for the Dodgers, it is superstar Shohei Ohtani. You can find more on that game and more Manitoba news. All you have to do is head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Oh, it could have gone either way. I opened one eye at one point and the bases were loaded for the Jays, and I'm like, one crack of the bat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, it just didn't happen last night. What a World Series so far, though.
Yeah, they hopefully they get the breaks tonight.
We'll see what happens. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
And yes, you'll have some tired colleagues if you have Jays fans in the office, especially those that went the whole 6+ hours with this game. Today's game, by the way, starts a little earlier. If you are someone that's been watching everything, it will start around 6 o'clock Winnipeg time. Okay. It is now 6:36 a.m. Winnipeg time, and Abby's here with our forecast on the other side of the rain.
Yeah, we're looking at cloudy conditions building as these showers end this morning in the southern part of the province. Then we'll see more like some breezy conditions would come with that, while we're seeing partly cloudy skies in the north. Looking at Winnipeg right now, 6 degrees. That rain already easing off. It's going to leave behind mainly cloudy conditions for the day. We might get to see some bright spots in between. Light northwest winds will come. We warm up to 9 degrees. Heading west towards Brandon, Nipawin, we're looking at 4 degrees right now. Cloudy conditions. The skies will clear this morning, and that would come with some light northwest winds also warming up to 9 degrees. In the Parkland region, we're looking at 4 degrees around Dauphin. It's also cloudy there. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today, and continues with breezy northwest winds warming up to about 8 degrees for that region. In the Interlake region, we're looking at 7 degrees around Gimli. Cloudy there. The rain is, you might still notice some drizzle here and there in that part of the province, but that should taper off, and then it's going to leave behind mainly cloudy skies with also those light winds coming from the northwest. You warm up to about 9 degrees today. Now we track it into the northern part of the province. We're looking at the PA, Flin Flon, Thompson, Gill, and Lynn Lake. We're seeing temperatures around 0 at this time. Thompson is around 3 for now. We're going to be seeing a mix of sun and clouds, light winds. The PA, Flin Flon warms up to 6 degrees. Thompson warms up to 7 degrees. We're spotting fog in the Thompson area at this time, but that should give way to a mix of sun and clouds later. Then further north in Churchill and the York region, we're looking at 6 degrees here, cloudy. Periods of rain expected this morning. You also warm up to 7, and that rain gets and taper off later tonight. So across board, Marcy, it's going to be more like mostly cloudy down south, and then we might see some rain in the north. But Winnipeg right now, it is 6 and cloudy.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And Corey Funk is here to talk about our morning commute.
Yes, we actually got a couple calls already. So Al called. He said Route 90 at Notre Dame closed both ways right now because of what appears to be a bus crash, a crashed transit bus. He didn't see exactly what was going on. He just saw a bus that was in there.
Scene. Okay.
Yeah, the bus on scene. Didn't see exactly what happened. Just saw a bus that was in the intersection. So right now you can't go north or south of Notre Dame there on Route 90. We're going to keep an eye on that, as you can imagine, throughout the morning. Also, got another call on the commuter line who's saying if you're heading down Logan, all of a sudden there's barricades up and you can't get onto Keewatin. So heads up there. Not too sure what's going on in that area as well. So that's kind of going both ways on Logan too. So heads up. If you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. We'll love to get some updates on those or anything else you're seeing. 204-788-3093.
Yeah, we'll have to see if those two are connected too, of course, because if you're heading to Logan through Keewatin and you're heading to Notre Dame to Route 90.
It's tough to know for sure at this point.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
788-3093. Please do update if you're out and about already this morning. And thanks for being here. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC, and it's time for business news with Hallie Cotnam. Hi there, Hallie.
Good morning, Marcy.
So new details emerging about the ad that seems to have scuttled the U.S.-Canada trade talks. What's the latest?
Well, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is defending the ad, which he says was seen before it aired by Prime Minister Mark Carney and his chief of staff. Donald Trump said yesterday on Air Force One that Ontario had apologized for the ad. Not true, according to Ford. He says he will never apologize for what he's describing as the most successful ad in North American history. He says it's been seen 1 billion times with a potential reach of 11 billion, thanks in part to all the news coverage about it.
Do you know why President Trump's so upset right now? Because it was effective. It was working. It woke up the whole country.
Ford says it's entirely true that his favorite U.S. president hated tariffs, and a former Reagan advisor, Bruce Bartlett, agrees, calling the ad historically accurate. Manitoba's Premier Rob Kinu is doubling down about the ad, continuing to praise it. He says, I think it's good that President Trump has to squirm and be reminded that Republicans and Mr. Reagan were totally against tariffs. And I mentioned yesterday that BC's Premier David Eby plans to launch a similar ad campaign in the U.S. next month about softwood lumber tariffs. But, Marcy, former U.S. Ambassador to Canada Kelly Craft is criticizing Ford and Eby for riling up the president. She says, if you try to beat President Trump up the escalation ladder, you lose.
Let's go to another story. It's a popular T-shirt meme. It says, everybody watches women's sports. And now there's some data, actually, about the impact of women's sport in our country.
Yeah, a report out yesterday by Canadian Women in Sports says the value of professional women's sport in Canada has doubled over the past 2 years, and that it's on track to reach more than $500 million by 2030. So the value rose to almost $400 million this year, up from about half that in 2023. Now, these numbers include the value of PWHL teams, including the new Vancouver franchise. Soccer's 6-team Northern Super League is going to add another club based in Central or Western Canada in 2027. And we know that next year, the Toronto Tempo will join the WNBA. Then, of course, there's professional golf and tennis in Canada with the Women's Open, the National Bank Open. Not to mention Olympic sponsorship deals as well for women athletes. Just think Summer McIntosh. She represents Red Bull and Lululemon and RBC and Tag Heuer. So this survey polled over 6,000 Canadians and consulted sports and business executives. And finally, it concluded that 2 out of 3 Canadians say that they are fans of women's sports.
I am one of those people.
Me too.
Yeah, I watch lots of women's golf myself, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
What do you watch?
Oh, hockey. I share season tickets to the Ottawa Charge.
Nice.
So, yeah, absolutely.
And soccer, lots of soccer. All right, Airbnb. Let's go to another story. They say they're cracking down on Halloween parties, but how?
Well, it's going to use its anti-party technology to track your playlist, Marcy. Well, that's only partially true. It has anti-party technology, but it's not triggered by songs like Thriller or Monster Mash. It has an algorithm that sorts through data, including the length of stay requested, the distance from the would-be guest's actual home to the place they're trying to rent, the type of property, and the timing of the booking. So it considers all of these factors to determine if you're actually planning a party. And Airbnb will then block reservations that it deems higher risk. It's not the first time Airbnb has attempted to block parties during holidays. Last year, it blocked 6,300 bookings in Canada over Halloween weekend. The company has also used this anti-party technology during New Year's Eve and major summer holiday weekends. And one of the ways that it enforces this rule, Marcy, is by using a noise and crowd sensor for hosts. Hosts can get an alert in real time if there are crowds or excessive noise on their property. And Airbnb says guests who break the no party policy are suspended or banned from the platform.
Airbnb guests, meantime, said, quote, "We got to fight for our right to party."
Thank you.
I know, golf clap, right? Really bad.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
I've known you long enough off air that I can do that.
Indeed.
All right, Hallie, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Take care, Marcy.
That's Hallie Cottenham with our business news on CBC Live via Zoom. Such a bad joke about some 80s Beastie Boys, huh? Why don't we play some local music? Folk musician Allison Russell recently released a duet with Annie Lennox. I shouldn't say recently, that was a little while back. It's a ballad, though, and we've pulled it out this morning. It's about needing love in a world filled with strife, which is our world. This is Super Lover on 89.3 FM.
'Tis a rage, tears of grief, Palestine, Israel to Tennessee. We need a super love, need a super lover. Double dutch and hula hoops, all our fears and loops and loops. We need a super love, need a super lover all the night. So cold, keeps the candle lit for their return. Who could count the flowers in your hearts? Please let me die before my child's brave. Every mother far and wide, yeah, that's a super love. I'm a super lover. You can feel it near and far. It fades the moon and blinds the stars. Yes, that's a super love. We are super lovers. The night so cold, so cold. Who among us dreams the dawn? Who among us dreams the dawn? Who dreamt us an oily gown? Who keeps the candle lit for their return? Keeps the candle lit for their return. Who could count the flowers in your heart? Believe what you will, believe they're gonna tell you it's naive to be a super lover, but we are super lovers. There's no God of fire and blood. If there's a God, then God is love. We need a super love. We can be super lovers all the night. So cold, so cold. Who among us dreams the dawn? Who among us dreams the dawn? Who dreamt us heavy gown? Who keeps the candle lit for their return? Who keeps the candle lit for their return? Who could count the flowers in your heart? Tears of rage, tears of grief. Palestine, Israel to Tennessee. Tears of rage, tears of grief. Sudan, Congo to Haiti. We need a super love. We can be super lovers.
Song for the times about needing love in a world filled with strife. That is Super Lover, the unmistakable voice of Annie Lennox there. Alison Russell's tune, Super Lover. It is 11 minutes now to 7 o'clock on CBC. For the latest in national and international news, we'll have that for you at the top of the clock here. We earlier talked to a Winnipegger who is in Jamaica. He's there caring for his mother and sick sister, and he's hunkering down, and he's sort of boarded up extra boards on the balconies and such. He's overlooking Kingston, and so he's in an area where he feels fairly safe right now. But of course, this storm that is coming is huge. If it reaches landfall as a Category 5, Melissa will be the largest to ever hit Jamaica. We'll hear more about that on World Report at 7 o'clock. Well, next, let's turn to politics. 1 week to go before Mark Carney's Liberals table their first budget. The latest preview came yesterday with support for certain sectors of the workforce, along with spending announcements, also are both raising concern. So this past weekend, Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon said they might not have the votes they will need to pass the budget. You know what that means, Canada? You know what that means, Manitoba? That means if it doesn't pass, could we be going to the polls here? Ryan Tumulty is here, political reporter with the Toronto Star. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's start there. What about these concerns? They don't have support to pass the budget.
Yeah, he doesn't have the numbers right now, of course. The Liberals are a minority. And he said basically that the opposition parties are essentially, he's accused them of being cavalier about this moment, about playing chicken essentially with the government, which of course is what happens every time we have one of these confidence votes. He said he doesn't have the votes and that it's possible this budget doesn't pass and Canadians have to go back to the polls.
What do the Liberals need to get their budget passed?
Yeah, so there's 343 members of this House of Commons, which makes a majority 172. The Liberals have 169, so they only need 3 votes to make this happen. Any of the opposition parties, except the Greens, or I guess the Green, can lend their support to the Liberals and pass this budget. In fact, the numbers are so strong for the Liberals in terms of a minority that if the NDP just sit this budget vote out, if they abstain on the budget vote, that is enough to see this pass.
Got it. What are the Conservatives asking for in exchange for their support?
So the Conservatives haven't actually said they would support the budget really under any circumstance, but they have said that they want to see a budget deficit that's less than $42 billion. They want to see the industrial carbon levy cut. They want to see some other taxes and fees cut. And generally, they are looking for sort of a budget as they would have written it.
And in terms of, you mentioned the NDP could sit this out and get the Liberals over the number, but what about the Bloc? Could they provide enough support for the Liberals? They certainly do have demands if they're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're enough with their MPs. That would be enough to get this budget passed. Same if they abstain. They have demanded a big increase in health transfers to the provinces. And they have also, and this is something they put forward in the last parliament, but weren't able to pass, they've proposed a big increase in old age security payments for younger seniors. So that's something that they've pushed forward. Those are very expensive demands, so difficult for the government to commit to, especially in a time when they are trying not to make big new spending commitments.
In the background, of course, of all of this and what's influencing Budget 2025 are the trade tariffs. How has Ottawa been reacting to the latest escalations we've been reporting on?
I would say remarkably calmly, all things considered. It has been sort of a muted response. The Prime Minister is out of the country in Malaysia, but he has said basically, we'll be ready to talk to the Americans when they're ready to come back to the table. Not, any kind of histrionics about this response. It's been very muted, very calm. Possibly, the government is just trying not to provoke Donald Trump further. In the U.S., some of the economic numbers are starting to head in the wrong direction, and certainly a lot of economists are connecting that to Trump trade policies. So, I think there are some questions, and I think maybe the government is just trying to stay out of the way here.
How long are they going to be able to sort of do that, given what's floating around? We just had Hallie Cotnam on our business news talking about the ad, the Ronald Reagan ad, and the fact that Ontario Premier Doug Ford's now doubling down on the ad, defending it. He also says that Donald Trump saying yesterday Ontario apologized for the ad isn't true. He said he never apologized. We understand EB's going to put an ad up now. Our premier here is weighing in. He said, quote, "I think it's good President Trump has to squirm, that he's being reminded that Republicans and Mr. Reagan were totally against tariffs," end quote. From Wab Canoe. What's your sense of this? I haven't had a chance to ask you about all of this, as we said, sort of alongside the budget here.
Yeah, I think what's worth considering here is that for Canada, the price of a bad deal would be very high. A lot of other G7 countries have cut deals with the U.S., Japan, the European Union, the UK. They have cut trade deals that impose tariffs on their economy, that make it harder to trade with the U.S., that are certainly deals that by any measure you would say favor the U.S. Those countries have made those deals. Canada has not. Mexico has not. I think part of the reason Canada has not is because so much of our trade is reliant on the US, much more than any of those other countries in Europe or Japan, that signing a bad deal has long-term negative consequences for us. So, I know there is real economic harm happening in Canada and a bunch of different industries. But better that economic harm not be made permanent, I think, is maybe what the government is viewing this as.
All right, Ryan. Well, budget next week. Thank you very much for today.
All right, thank you.
That is Ryan Tumulty with us live via Zoom, political reporter with the Toronto Star. Right now, it's 4 minutes to 7 o'clock. We have a couple things to tell you about in traffic. Now, these may have developed. Call us if they have. Route 90 at Notre Dame, there was something going on there involving a bus. We don't have much more information. There was a bus on scene, but it was blocked. Al called saying Route 90 Notre Dame, north and south, blocked both ways. Also, same part of the city, but different area slightly, different streets. So Logan now, we're talking about Logan. Apparently, you can't get onto Keewatin, so it's blocked there, Logan at Keewatin. If those situations have changed, please update us and call Corey on the commuter line. It's 788-3093. We will update the weather in just a moment. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who's live in our news center with headlines.
Good morning. Well, Premier Rob Canoe says Manitoba is planning 3 mega projects, which could generate a combined $30 billion in economic activity. Canoe making that claim on a podcast that aired Saturday. He says one of the projects is the Port of Churchill, but would not name the other two, saying only they are related to energy. Unacceptable. That is how the head of Manitoba's Nurses Union describes the situation at the Health Sciences Centre, running above 200% capacity this past week. In a social media post, the union says there were 120 active patients. Many in the ER had to wait hours for care, according to MNU, and some patients were redirected to Children's Emergency for care. I'll be back with more on these stories and other news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Weather-wise here, cloudy and 6 degrees in Winnipeg, cloudy 4 in Brandon, foggy and 3 in Thompson. As you can hear, the rain has ended, and it's mainly cloudy. A little drizzly, depending on what part of the city you're in still, maybe. But a high of 9 degrees today with cloud cover for the day is what we're expecting. Winds will be northwest 20 to 40 in Winnipeg. In the next hour of the show, Bartley Kivas from CBC is going to be down to in studio with us to break down, the Premier's recent hints at those new mega projects that Heather was just mentioning. So that's in the next hour. Also, Halloween is knocking on the door. End of the week. A Winnipeg family is putting on a Halloween light show for a good cause. We'll hear more about it. And coming up after 7 o'clock, a group calling for every Manitoba student to be screened for learning disabilities twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3 is going to be with us. We're going to hear about the difference that could make. So that's coming up after 7 o'clock on the show. You might recall right now that Bill 225 was put forward by a Liberal MLA, Cindy Lamoureux in our province, and that would require every student in Manitoba to be screened twice a year. So we're going to hear from a group that supports this and also hear where that bill's at. It's all still ahead on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC. And thank you for joining us. We'll get the very latest on Melissa and what's going on as it approaches Jamaica coming up. And we'll also hear about that marathon game last night where the Dodgers took Game 3 from our Toronto Blue Jays. Stay tuned. More ahead on CBC.
On The Current.
I just really wanted to know where my heart came from and just thank them. I'm so grateful.
I'm Catherine Cullen. Nearly 200 Canadians are waiting for a heart transplant, but doctors here have just done the first transplant ever with a heart that had stopped beating before donation. How this could shorten the wait for a new heart, coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
Is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth. Hurricane Melissa is about to make landfall in Jamaica. People are being told to seek shelter and prepare for life-threatening flooding and storm surge. Mark O'Brien is the director of the National Hurricane Center.
This is going to lead to widespread infrastructure damage, prolonged power outages, communication outages, and isolated communities. It's going to be a very dangerous post-storm environment.
On Saturday morning, Melissa was just a tropical storm. Now it is forecast to be the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the country. And as Anayat Singh reports, the storm's rapid growth has the fingerprints of climate change all over it.
We've had 5 hurricanes, and now 4 of them have undergone this extreme rapid intensification.
Shel Winkley is an expert with Climate Central, a New Jersey-based science nonprofit that's analyzing the rapid strengthening of Hurricane Melissa, which it says is fueled by an overheating planet.
This is something that we didn't see a couple decades ago, but that we're now seeing at least every season, if not even multiple times this season.
Hurricanes derive energy from the heat in ocean water, and ocean temperatures in the Caribbean are unusually high, about 2 to 3 degrees above normal. Oceans absorb excess heat from the atmosphere, which has been warming because of human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. Akshay Devaras, a researcher at the UK's National Centre for Atmospheric Science, also warns that the hurricane is moving very slowly over the ocean, giving it more time to gather strength.
This is making the tropical cyclone very, very dangerous, because if a tropical cyclone is moving slowly, then it means that whenever it will start dumping rain over Jamaica, it will give more chance for a lot of rainfall to happen.
Last year saw the highest average ocean temperatures on record globally. Experts say it's a warning sign that the overheated oceans will continue leading to more and more destructive hurricanes. Inayat Singh, CBC News, Toronto.
And the United Nations says if countries follow through on their latest climate pledges, greenhouse gas emissions will decrease by about 10% by 2035. But UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told The Guardian that won't be enough.
The truth is that we have failed to avoid an overshooting above 1.5 degrees in the next few years. There is an expectation of a reduction of emissions of 10%. We would need 60%. So overshooting is now inevitable.
1.5 degrees Celsius represents a tipping point in climate change. If global temperatures rise above that point, scientists say it will have devastating consequences for coral reefs, the Amazon forest, as well as ice caps.
Anything I can do to help Japan, we will be there. We are an ally at the strongest level.
U.S. President Donald Trump offering support to Japan's new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi. The leaders earlier today reaffirmed an agreement on trade. Trump is making a stop in Japan ahead of his APEC summit in South Korea later this week. There, he will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. But tensions between the two largest economies recently flared up. As Lisa Shing reports, China is going into the meeting with significant leverage.
He seems to have respect for strong leaders.
Zhichen Wang, a fellow at the Beijing-based think tank Center for China and Globalization, says U.S. President Donald Trump does not have much leverage, despite the U.S. and China reaching a deal ahead of his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
He's utilizing its unique advantages in the global supply chains, seem to have worked very well.
Those advantages include having a near monopoly on rare earth minerals, essential to everything from smartphones to electric vehicles, materials on which China has threatened to tighten export rules, the latest escalation in a months-long truce after Trump started his global trade war. Now, officials have just reached a framework agreement which will see China delay that measure, start buying U.S. soybeans again, and finalize an agreement on U.S. ownership of TikTok, brokered by Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
I think we've reached a substantial framework for the two leaders.
But Mary Lovely, a senior fellow at the Washington-based think tank Peterson Institute for International Economics, says even if the leaders' meeting goes well, there will still likely be friction in the relationship.
Well, given the meta stakes, which I think really do focus on technology, competition, and security, this deal isn't going to settle any of those fundamental issues.
Which means there could be continued global repercussions if the world's two largest economies are fighting. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, while Trump is in Japan, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Singapore today. He's been meeting with top government investment officials, and later this week, he too is scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. China is another country where trade relations have not been good. Canada imposed tariffs on electric vehicles from China. Meantime, Beijing has slapped Canadian canola with tariffs as well. The Alberta government says teachers must go back to work. In the early hours this morning, Premier Daniel Smith's government passed Bill 2 to order 51,000 striking educators back into classrooms. And it did so by using the Charter's notwithstanding clause. Julia Wong has more.
It also invokes the notwithstanding clause to help ensure stability for the school system moving forward.
Boos and jeers as the Alberta government tables Bill 2 to force 51,000 striking teachers back to work, ending a 3-week-long strike that has kept about 750,000 students home.
I know this has been an incredibly difficult start to the school year for students who've already experienced too many disruptions.
The province will impose the last contract offer teachers overwhelmingly rejected, and it's using the notwithstanding clause to protect the bill from a charter challenge. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
And this is a unique strike. We've never had 51,000 workers off the job at the same time.
The Alberta Teachers Association is angry and exploring legal options, says President Jason Schilling.
And I'll tell you right now, if they think by what they have done here today is going to quiet down the tens of thousands of voices of teachers across this province, then they're sorely mistaken.
The Alberta Federation of Labour calls it an assault on workers' rights. President Gil McGowan says it's considering province-wide job action.
This is not a war that we chose, but make no mistake, this government has declared war on working people, not just in this province, but across the country.
The Alberta government says teachers could face fines if they do not comply. Students and teachers are expected to be back in schools Wednesday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
Well, it took 6 hours and 39 minutes, but the Los Angeles Dodgers now lead 2-1 over the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. Toronto will look to now bounce back and even out the series tonight in LA. Thomas Dagla has more on the historic game from Dodgers Stadium.
After 18 innings of baseball and in front of a stadium full of bleary-eyed fans, Freddie Freeman walked it off. Last year's World Series MVP, born to Canadian parents, Freeman blasted a solo homer to center field, claiming Game 3 for the Dodgers 6-5.
Oh my gosh, just pure excitement.
Freeman's game winner capped off a marathon that lasted longer than 2 average big league games combined. A heartbreaking outcome for the Blue Jays, who earlier in the game saw slugger George Springer leave with pain in his right side. Jays manager John Schneider.
The Dodgers didn't win the World Series today. They won a game. You know what I mean?
Amid it all, the sport's biggest star, Shohei Ohtani, belted 4 extra base hits, a feat unseen in the World Series since 1906. I want to go to sleep as soon as possible, he joked afterward. And no wonder. Ohtani is set to start on the mound in Game 4 tonight. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Duck Lake, Saskatchewan is a town with a lot of history. In 1885, it was the site of the Battle of Duck Lake, one of the first clashes in the Northwest Resistance led by Louis Riel. But last week, the mayor of the town announced plans to sell its naming rights. And although fewer than 600 people live there, the backlash has been vocal. Hundreds of people have signed a petition. It says changing Duck Lake's name would erase part of its Métis heritage and identity. Jason Anderson is Duck Lake's mayor. He told CBC News that selling naming rights to the town would generate money to fix crumbling infrastructure. And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here live on Information Radio on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube this morning. The rain is trying to stop. Still some drips in downtown Winnipeg here. We'll get over that soon. Also, we do have some traffic issues. Corey will update a couple of them in a moment, but they're at quite significant intersections, so we'll find out more about that. This hour on CBC, Bartley Kives is going to break down what Premier Rob Canoe has recently hinted at. 3 new mega projects. We're going to learn more about what we know and what the PCs have had to say in reaction as well. So that's this hour live. Also, a Winnipeg family is putting on a Halloween light show for a good cause. We'll take you there. Halloween is coming up Friday. But we begin with a group calling for every Manitoba student to be screened for learning disabilities twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3. It mirrors a bill that's been put forward. We're going to hear about the difference that could make. And that bill was put forward by Liberal MLA Cindy Lamoureux. So stay tuned. We're going to hear more about this. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who is here with our headlines locally. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Union for Manitoba Nurses says nurses are stretched thin and are overworked. In a social media post, the union says the Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity, meaning many in the ER had to wait hours for care. Some were redirected to Children's Hospital. MNU President Darlene Jackson says the work environment for nurses is not healthy. No membership card required at Niverville's first library. The southeast Manitoba town, just south of Winnipeg, is taking the little free library concept to the next level. At this library, everyone's invited to take any book they would like, and they're asked to leave behind books they're done with. We'll take you to Niverville in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Now let's go to the weather forecast with Abby.
Yeah, Marcy, that rain still tapering off across the southern part of the province this morning. It's going to be leaving behind mostly cloudy skies and cold breeze from the northwest, while the north will see a few sunny breaks and calmer conditions. Winnipeg right now, we are at 6 degrees at the Forks. I am sporting light rain at the airport this morning. The last of the rain should wrap up this morning. Then we're going to see mainly cloudy conditions with just winds for the afternoon period. Temperatures warms up to 9 degrees. In the southern part of the province, rain tapering off. Most of the regions warming close to 10 degrees. While up north, we still see those foggy conditions around Thompson, and we'll see highs around 7 degrees. Overall, 6 degrees right now. The rain tapering off in Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, I mentioned a couple of traffic issues, Corey. What's up?
Yeah, we got a tip earlier this morning about an incident with a bus at Route 90 and Notre Dame. We have some more details now from the city about what's going on. This was an update just 2 minutes ago from the Winnipeg Traffic Management Center. So King Edward and Notre Dame southbound median and middle lanes are closed. And the city says that significant delays are happening there. And then the westbound lanes on Notre Dame closed and rerouting north or south onto King Edward. So it's not completely blocked like we heard earlier, but just the median and middle lanes are closed on King Edward right now. So it's going to be very slow going. Also, if you're coming from Notre Dame onto King Edward, police are on scene.
Okay, one more time. I'm going to write it down because I'm going to have to say it a few times this hour. So King Edward and Notre Dame southbound is closed. And what's the other one?
Median and middle lanes are closed. And then westbound Notre Dame closed and being rerouted north or south onto King Edward.
Okay. Come back in whenever you need.
Yes, we'll do. Just another update there, too. Also got a tip about Logan and Keewatin. If you're heading down Logan, you can't turn on to Keewatin. We got a tip from a caller about that. Not sure if that has to do with this because it's not super far away from that, but just heads up there. There's barricades up preventing you from turning onto Keewatin from Logan. If you see anything else, feel free to give me an update. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
7:14 is the time now, and as I mentioned, Manitoba lawmakers and parents are calling for early screening for learning disabilities. Bill 225, put forward by Liberal MLA Cindy Lamoureux, would require every student in this province to be screened twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3. 9-year-old Blake Neufeld lives with dyslexia. She was at an event for supporters of the bill at the Manitoba Legislative Building last week. That's where she spoke to CBC's Josh Crabb about her experience.
It was hard because like the reading it was really hard because of the reading and they made it worse and it was really hard to read with other people or reading to the class, and yeah.
Because you didn't know that there was a problem.
Yeah.
But now you do, and you're able to get tutoring?
Yeah.
And is that helping?
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had some really hard times before finding out that you went home crying. Was that just because you were trying so hard? And
it was because I was trying and I can't. It was because I always have to be partnered up with people, and I wanted to know how to do it on my own.
So how did you actually find out that you had some challenges?
Well, it was when we were at school, and she explains the things, but then when I get to work, then it becomes like hard when, like, if we're doing, because last year we did lots of like tests, and I was only in grade 3, and it was like really hard to like figure out because I couldn't read the question as well, so I didn't know like how to do the questions right.
Blake Neufeld, she lives with dyslexia. She's 9 years old. She was at an event last week for folks supporting this bill that's been put forward by Liberal MLA Cindy Lamoureux. Well, Karen Veldhouse supports it too. She's the executive director of the Learning Disabilities Association of Manitoba. Good morning.
Hey, Marcy.
How did listening to Blake there make you feel? What were you thinking about?
I actually started getting tears in my eyes, quite honestly. Those are students we hear from every day, and it was just so wonderful to hear her articulate how she's feeling.
I would ask what you think of universal screening, but I actually want to phrase it differently because having done a lot of reporting on dyslexia in this province and screening, I know that not all of the screening tools are necessarily the same, and there can be challenges with diagnosis. What do we need to do to make universal screening effective for the most kids in this province, if this, a la this bill or another method?
So I honestly would like to see us start screening even before school starts, Marcy. That's one of the things that I'm hoping that we can get to in this province. So we know that kids who are preschool already can show signs of having a learning disability. So it shows up in ways such as phonological awareness challenges. They might have difficulty rhyming, trouble remembering sounds. And we see that even before they enter kindergarten. So it would be wonderful if we could get to that place where we're screening before kids even go into school buildings.
And do the medical professionals in this province have enough awareness, education, resource to be able to do that screening consistently right now, or what would we need to make that happen?
I think it would be, a place where our organization, for instance, could support that. Right? We know that there's screeners that exist that are universal that really would pick up on some of that, those challenges that are happening, and we could do that through daycares, through preschools, through family centers. There's many places that kids show up that we could, for instance, like we do hearing and vision screenings. We could be doing it before they enter school, so that we're kind of doing a wholesale screen to see if there's any challenges that may exist when they enter a school building.
This bill, 225, obviously isn't looking at that youngest set. It's saying screening twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3. Although that's not ideal for you, what are your thoughts on that, how it's proposed?
I think, anything we can do that we're doing, not doing now is better than not doing anything. Right? If we can stop those challenges that, kids like Blake are experiencing when we don't know that she's struggling to learn how to read, those at least will start picking up those challenges. And the faster that we can protect a child's confidence and get rid of years of frustration, we need to get away from the waiting for them to fail model and helping to support them before we see them failing.
You talked about confidence. What are the other things that are affected in a child if they go undiagnosed and they're struggling with a learning disability?
Absolutely. So, we start to see their self-esteem erode. We start to see mental health issues come to the foreground. And there's a disconnect with them wanting to show up at school. Right? We start to see them having headaches and stomach aches and saying they don't want to go to school. And their relationship with school becomes very tenuous in that they don't feel supported and comfortable being in that situation.
There may be people that will argue teachers are already noticing and flagging learning disabilities in the classroom, and that we don't need universal screening. What's your sense of that? That already teachers are catching this?
Absolutely, and teachers do notice, but sometimes by the time it becomes obvious in schools, kids are already struggling. So the formal screening would be proactive. It helps us look for risk factors before the struggles even appear. And, it's, again, especially critical for kids like Blake that have learning disabilities, because the earlier we intervene, the better the outcome.
Parents at home, what should they be looking at to recognize early signs of a learning disability?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as language starts developing, right? We hear kids start to babble and make sounds, right? Before we even start words, we're making sounds. So rhyming is a particular flag. If kids can rhyme, isolate different sounds. Just even the ma, 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 da, 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 right? They're starting to make those sounds. So just paying attention. And the other thing is that we know learning disabilities are genetic. So if we do have a parent who perhaps has been diagnosed with a learning disability, keeping an eye open for some of those signs. If there is a parent that has been diagnosed, then that's also important to look at.
And it's so interesting, too, because between the generations, of course, a lot of those parents might have gone undiagnosed because it was such a different time that may not have been available. So families now are sometimes double catching up.
You're so correct, Marcy. Sometimes when kids are getting diagnosed, parents are also getting diagnosed at the same time. So there is that. But once parents understand that their child has been struggling, they are able to see some of those challenges they had as well in school.
Thank you for your time, Karen.
Of course, thank you.
Karen Veldhuis, Executive Director of the Learning Disabilities Association of Manitoba. Now, speaking of being diagnosed later, coming up after 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to a woman who was 43 when she was diagnosed with a learning disability. And she says that diagnosis changed her life. And if you want to weigh in on any aspect of the story, 788-3205. You're with CBC's Information Radio, your morning show. We have a traffic update for you. The news department just spoke with police. All lanes are now open, Route 90 and Notre Dame. All lanes now open, Route 90 and Notre Dame. Well, sports coming up in a moment. If you stayed up to watch that game last night, you probably need a lot of coffee this morning, but we'll get an update in a moment. First, just time to slide in a bit of music. This is Grace Desbarat, a folk artist whose work invites, she says, introspection. Maybe that's what the Jays are doing today. Check out this one. It's called Right to Play on 89.3 FM. That is Right to Play, name of the tune, Grace Desbarat. There were lots of plays we have to talk about next. It's going to go down as a World Series classic, a classic that unfortunately the Blue Jays lost. And I'm guessing a very tired Scott Reguera is joining us right now.
I don't even know what I am anymore. Days and nights, they're all blurring together.
Did you make it to the end or what? I made it to when I opened about 11:45.
Yeah, I made it well into extra innings. I'll say that much. Freddie Freeman made sure it ended the way he would have liked. Marcy is stroking a ball over the center field fence just before the stroke of midnight in L.A. A Hollywood ending in Hollywood, where we weren't sure who the chief protagonist would be until the very end. At first, it looked like it might be Alejandro Kirk, the Jays hero. In the city with the biggest Mexican population outside of Mexico, the Tijuana native had a 3-run homer. Kirk's the first player from his country to go deep in a World Series. But he would be outshone by Shohei Ohtani, the living legend, the Japanese slugger who had 2 homers and added 2 doubles for good measure, becoming just the second player in more than a century's worth of fall classics to manage so many extra base hits in one game. But, Marcy, when Toronto finally decided to walk Shohei, another hero had to emerge, and it would be Freeman, the son of 2 Canadian parents who, remember, had a walk-off homer in last year's World Series against the Yankees.
It's kind of what you're always talking about as kids, and it was always bases loaded, and 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. But to have it happen again a year later to hit another walk-off, it's kind of amazing, crazy, and I'm just glad we won.
Yeah, he may have an aw-shucks personality, but Freddie Freeman, Marcy, is a gentleman assassin with 2 championships on his resume already and is now just 2 wins away from adding a 3rd.
Where does last night's game rank among World Series classics?
Well, right near the top. There have been a few that come close to matching the drama, but in terms of length, only one's ever surpassed last night's. That was the 7-hour and 20-minute long epic between L.A. and Boston in 2018, which ended in eerily similar circumstances. Bottom of the 18th, Dodger Stadium. Nobody out, no runners on base when?
Muncy flies one in the air to left center. Back at the wall, and it's gone! It's over! Muncy!
Max Muncy, who of course still plays for the Dodgers, walked things off in the opening game. Now, as I know you know, as a sometimes Red Sox fan, things didn't end the way L.A. wanted. Boston came back and claimed that World Series, so the Blue Jays, Marcy, are hoping history repeats itself.
A very awesome listener went to some of those games and brought me back a World Series hat, in fact.
Oh, very nice.
I'm hoping someone will send me a Jays one, but what do you think? What do you think of Toronto's chances after losing in such a roller coaster of emotion? And also, Shohei Ohtani, when he decides to be in charge, he's in charge, and he's in the mound tonight, right?
Yeah, he is. And I think that's the key of the pitchers. Now, the last time Shohei towed the rubber, Marcy, he struck out 10 Brewers and hit 3 home runs, eliminating Milwaukee in the process. But will he have the energy tonight to replicate that performance? Remember, Shohei loves his sleep. He aims for 12 hours a day. He is a sponsor for a Japanese pillow company. He loves sleep so much. I don't think he's getting the shutout he would have liked for this game tonight. Meanwhile, Toronto's starter is juggling his own energy depletion. Things got so desperate last night. The Jays had Shane Bieber warming up in the bullpen for a possible 19th inning. Instead, he gets the ball tonight in the first. Here's manager John Schneider.
This group is going to be ready to play tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's longest game in World Series history, whatever it is, tied for it. I mean, these guys are enjoying it. They were in the right mindset and the right headspace the entire time. It sucks that it's late right now. We got to come back and do it again tomorrow, but these guys are going to be more than ready. The Dodgers didn't win the World Series today. They won a game.
They won a marathon, and managing decisions played a part as well. Schneider, Marcy, chose to replace Addison Barger, Bo Bichette, and Alejandro Kirk early, so Toronto was missing their best batters, some of them anyway, in their extra innings, while L.A. had all of theirs. This series has become a battle of attrition. George Springer's injured. Will he be coming back? Who knows? How would the Jays replace him if he doesn't? Understanding how to navigate that battle is one way to come out on top in the World Series. The other, just walk Shohei. Every single time.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Before the last homer, I was going, right? It's always easier from the couch, though. All right. Thanks, Scott.
You betcha.
Talk to you later. That game tonight, by the way, goes a little earlier, 6 o'clock Winnipeg time. Police say all lanes are now open. Route 90 at Notre Dame. That's a traffic tip for you heading into your CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's a cloudy 6 degrees. Still feeling a little damp out there, but we are starting to dry out. A bit of a northwest breeze today and warmer than seasonal with a high of 9. Premier Wab Kinew says Manitoba is planning 3 mega projects. He says they could generate a combined $30 billion in economic activity. That's more than a third of Manitoba's existing GDP. Kinew made the claim on a podcast that aired Saturday.
One that we're almost certainly going to do, a second that we're trying to put the financing piece together, and then the third, which has been very public, is the Port of Churchill.
Kinew would not name the other 2 projects, but does say they're related to energy. Kinew says if they all come to pass, Manitoba could wean itself off federal transfer payments in 5 to 10 years. You can hear more on this story coming up in the next half hour right here on Information Radio. The Manitoba Nurses Union says the Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity this past week. In a social media post, the union says there were 120 active patients. Many in the ER had to wait hours for care, and some patients were redirected to children's emergency for care. The president of the Manitoba Nurses Union, Darlene Jackson, says it's unacceptable.
I did talk to an ER nurse who said she's worked in ER at HSC for 10 years, and last week she worked 5 12-hour shifts, and they were probably the worst 5 shifts she's worked in 10 years. I appreciate the government is, making announcements and saying we're working on this. Unfortunately, those on the front lines are not feeling that.
Shared Health says patient volumes at the HSC ER were significantly higher than usual last Tuesday. In a statement to CBC, it says the 120 active patients the nurses union refers to include people in the waiting room, as well as those being assessed and those receiving treatment. A spokesperson stresses people should go to the ER if they need emergency care. Well, people in Jamaica are being told to immediately seek shelter from Hurricane Melissa. The Category 5 storm is expected to make landfall this morning.
Based on what we have heard, I have seen and heard that it's going to be very catastrophic.
This woman manages a shelter in Montego Bay. She's urging people to gather food and essential medications and get to a safe place. Hurricane Melissa is so severe it's expected to pummel the island with catastrophic flash floods and storm surge. It could be the strongest storm ever recorded in Jamaica. Now, a Winnipegger has been nailing up plywood and securing his family home in Jamaica, waiting for the full force of Hurricane Melissa. Robert Collins is on the east side of the island nation in St. Andrews, overlooking Kingston.
Fearful feeling. As a nation, Jamaica is not ready for this in terms of our agriculture, our tourism, which is the lifeblood of our country. It's concerning, but, we're a resilient people and we're here. We've done the best we can in terms of preparation.
Collins says he's caring for his mother and sister who are both ill. He is concerned what will happen if they are forced out. Prime Minister Mark Carney's in Singapore today. He's been meeting with the top government investment officials, and later this week, he too is scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. China is another country where trade relations haven't been good. Canada imposed tariffs on electric vehicles from China, and Beijing has slapped Canadian canola with tariffs as well. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. No membership card required at Niverville's first library. The southeast Manitoba town just south of Winnipeg is taking the Little Free Library concept to the next level. And this library, everyone is invited to take any book they'd like. They're asked to leave behind books they are done with. Christina Cron was at the grand opening last night with her 4 kids.
That's a really great addition for really young, and it's just nice to have something like that's no screens, that children can read and use their imaginations and get lost in a world of books.
The town of 6,000 hopes to one day have a full municipal library. Well, bleary-eyed baseball fans will all be talking about this game.
The Dodgers win it, and they take a 2-1 lead in the World Series.
One of the longest games in World Series history. It took 18 innings for Game 3 to be decided, with Freddie Freeman the hero for LA. His solo home run gave the Dodgers a 6-5 victory and a 2-1 series lead. The game took 6 hours, 39 minutes to finish. And now, a quick turnaround. The two teams are going to do it all over again tonight. Shane Bieber starting Game 4 for Toronto, and for the Dodgers, it is superstar Shohei Ohtani. You can find more Manitoba news throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into this forecast. Abby Adiemi has details. We're on the other side of this wetness. Well, almost.
I'm just going to look outside.
We're close.
Still wet street, Marcy. It's just a bit of spit there outside, but we're still seeing light rain at the airport. 6 degrees right now at the Forks. Rain will end this morning, leaving behind mainly cloudy skies. Some breeze from the northwest. We warm up to 9 degrees tonight. We will see clear conditions, and then temperatures for Winnipeg drops about -2, but lots of sunshine on the way for Wednesday. In the Pembina Valley region, 7 degrees we're seeing. Showers also ending this morning. Winds will turn northwest, get breezy at some point. You warm up to 9 degrees. Heading west, Brandon towards Nipawin, we're looking at 2 degrees right now. Cloudy. Clearing late this morning, then we'll see some winds from the northwest, highs around 9. In the Parkland region, tracking it from Dauphin all the way towards Roblin, we're looking at 3 degrees, clear conditions. The sun will make its appearance to that part of the province. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds with breezy northwest winds, highs near 8 degrees. Over in the Interlake region, 7 degrees we're tracking right now, cloudy. The rain is going to end this morning. Then we'll see cloudy conditions and breezy northwest winds. Highs near 9 degrees for that part of the province. The powerful influence, we're looking at temperatures around 0 and -1. Clear, expecting a mix of sun and clouds. There's a slim chance of showers later in the day, high near 6 degrees. Thompson, you're looking at 3 degrees, still misty in that part of the province, but once it clears, you'd see a mix of sun and clouds, and you warm up to about 7 degrees. Churchill, 5 degrees, rain on its way to that part of the province, you warm up to 7, and then that clears tonight, you drop to 0. So overall, it's more like a cloudy day in the province, and a few spots might see sunny breaks. Winnipeg right now, we are 6 and cloudy.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in the commute with Corey.
Yeah, earlier, of course, there was that issue at Route 90 in Notre Dame. Police say that has now been cleared, but there is still a tow truck in the curb lane. Just heads up there. That's the curb lane on King Edward. So look out for that eastbound Notre Dame, apologies. Eastbound Notre Dame, there's still a tow truck in the curb lane. Other than that, I haven't heard of any major issues out there this morning. But if you do see something going on, feel free to give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you're walking, biking, driving. Would love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
22 minutes to 8 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. And Halloween is coming up fast on Friday. And I'll tell you what, my next two guests are ready. Michelle Wetton-Salo says she can't wait for October. It's when her family puts on this huge Halloween light display. It's called the Salo Family Light Display. It's a tradition they've been doing for the last 5 years. They turn their Bridgewood Drive home in Northeast Winnipeg into a spooky light show that syncs to cool music, and it all goes to a great cause. So Michelle joins us via Zoom, and also with her, Lyle Salo is with her this morning too. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Tell me a little bit about this display that you've committed to for the last 5 years. What's it look like? What's it like, Michelle?
Well, my husband has built the most incredible light display. It features over 20,000 pixels of LED light. We have a Halloween and a Christmas show. Our Halloween show is set up right now, of course. And there's lights all over the house. So there's all over the roof, all over the yard, and a giant screen in our garage that features different patterns of light, plus some music videos.
We're looking at some of the footage that you provided to us. What's cool about it is this video was shot in the daytime, and it still looks awesome. Like the lights on the front are kind of going around a structure that is almost like a, it's kind of almost shaped like a teepee. But then if you look on the garage, there's projections, and then all those lights on the house. How long does this take you, Lyle? I mean, you must be exhausted, man.
It took me about 6 months to build it all originally.
Wow.
But now that it's all built, it takes about a week or so to put up.
Got it. So have you sort of all those elements I'm seeing moving on the lawn, are they sort of now pre-built so you can put them out?
Yeah, it's kind of nice that way. I do try to add a couple of new things every year.
Yeah.
But,
so who pushed who in your house, Lyle? Like who's Halloween crazy first, or is this couple bonding?
Well, my wife wanted Christmas lights, So I picked up some lights that had a cool display at Canadian Tire, but I found the patterns didn't look as cool as they could. And then I made the mistake of Googling animated Christmas lights, and somehow it ended up here.
I think it's a case of being careful what you wish for. This is far beyond my expectations. Now that we've expanded into Halloween, it's a fun way to celebrate our light show with the community as well.
I love it. I love that you're also detail oriented. It's not like you just threw up every light you could. I mean, it's very thoughtfully designed. You've got the pumpkins above the garage there. Tell me about the cause. The display raises money for the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba. Michelle, tell me a little bit about why that's something you care about in your family.
Yeah, so we're parents, and of course, we care about kids here in Manitoba. So we work with the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba when we're raising money through our light show to help kids in hospital here in Manitoba. So we, to date, have raised over $5,000 for the cause, which we are extremely proud of. And this year, we've been doing fantastic with fundraising. As of this morning, we've raised almost $600 towards our goal of $1,000 for the season. So we are so excited to potentially bump up our goal due to the response from the community. So we're so thankful for those that have dropped off cash donations at the box in the front of the house or donated online. We are so thankful to be able to share the lights with everyone and also raise money for a great cause as well.
If people want to donate, Michelle, do they just drop by the house, or tell us a little bit more about that? You also have some social media pages, right?
We do. So a couple options. If you're coming to the house, there is a mailbox just on the lamppost in front of the house. You can leave cash donations in there. There's also a QR code there that'll link you directly to the Children's Hospital Foundation fundraising page. We also have Facebook and Instagram, so I would encourage your listeners to follow us there. Our handle is @Salo Family Light Show, and there's a link to our fundraising page there as well.
Perfect. And Salo, just for the radio listeners here, is SALO, in case you're looking it up. So this is synced to music, which is obviously probably your end of things, Lyle, setting all this up. How challenging is that to sync it all?
It takes a lot of time. You know, especially the singing faces, you have to break down every word into the phenome of the letter so that the mouth movement looks correct.
So is that what
it does take?
I'm just interjecting. Sorry, is that what I'm looking at on the garage face then, where you're seeing the video? And that's so you actually have gone to the detail of syncing up when people are seeing that on your garage. Wow.
Yeah.
What song are you sick of hearing?
Honestly, kind of by the time I'm done, it's I don't want to hear it anymore. But then once it's on the display, I enjoy seeing it. So
yeah, and we switch up the songs every year. So we of course have some Halloween classics, you know, Monster Mash, Thriller, but then we have some popular songs each year. So this year we've got some Lady Gaga, some K-pop Demon Hunters for all the kids out there. They really love that. So by switching it up, it makes it fun and fresh for us too.
The K-pop Demon Hunter, obviously all that music's popular. We're going to play a tune right away, but you can't resist. I love that golden tune. You actually are using that as something special this year for your fundraising as well. Tell me a bit more about the connection there.
Yeah, well, we have so many kids coming to the house to have a dance party. As you can imagine, the lights attract, you know, lots of attention. So we invited Rumi from Heather's Pretty Parties, and she visited with guests on the driveway. And it was great to have so many people in the community come out, and they all brought donations for Children's Hospital. So that event alone brought in almost $300. So we're very happy that she was able to make it out, and we had lots of, you know, happy families coming to share in her visit.
How many people, this has been up already for a few weeks. Do you know when it's all said and done, how many people you're expecting to come through? Or do you have a sense of that?
I mean, there's always kind of a row of cars out front, kind of sitting there. Like, you're not quite sure how many people are in the cars, but there's always kind of 3 or 4 cars sitting out there. Usually kind of close to the beginning of the night, there's usually a little bit of a dance party on the driveway, which is awesome to see. I would estimate probably a couple hundred for sure.
It's probably higher than that even. I think he's being a little gracious, but we have cars outside watching from their vehicles. So you can tune to a radio station and listen to the music. And so sometimes we'll have people watching, from their cars, dancing on the driveway. We'll even get tailgaters sometimes who bring hot chocolate and snacks and enjoy the show with their family. So
I love that.
It's something that's become a tradition for a lot of people, and we're proud to offer that.
No doubt. You can learn some moves from the skeleton too. He was just sort of doing some cool moves on the garage.
Definitely.
All right, you two enjoy Halloween. You already are, and good luck with the next stage when you flip all this into Christmas. But good luck with your fundraising efforts as well. Thanks for sharing with us on CBC and being up early. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having us on.
That is Michelle Wetton-Salo and Lyle Salo talking about their display for Halloween, which will then flip to Christmas. If you want to see it, Bridgewood Drive in Winnipeg. To donate, you can visit their social media pages at Salo Family, S-A-L-O, Salo Family Light Show. That's on Facebook or Instagram. And we can't resist because it is so good. Kids are not. Maybe you've seen it one or two times. This is Golden from Huntrix, from the K-pop Demon Hunters movie on CBC 89.3 FM.
I was a ghost, I was alone. 두어진 길 속에. Given the throne, I didn't know how to believe I was the queen that I'm meant to be. I lived two lives, tried to play both sides, but I couldn't find my own place. Caught a path, left child, cause I got too wild, but now that's how I'm getting paid. 끝없이 on stage, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm born to be. We dreaming hard, we came so far, now I believe. We're going up, 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 it's our moment. You know together we're going, gonna be golden. Up, up, up with our voices. You wanna get you so on it. Gonna be golden. Oh, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm born to be. Oh, our time, no fears, no lies, that's who we're born to be. Waited so long to break these walls down, to wake up and feel like me. Put these patterns all in the past now, and finally live like the girl they all see. No more hiding, I'll be shining like I'm born to be. Cause we are hunters, voices strong, and I know I believe. We're going up, 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 it's our moment. You know together we're going, gonna be golden. Oh, up, up, up with our voices. You wanna get you so on it. Gonna be golden. Oh, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm born to be. Oh, our time, no fears, no lies, that's who we're born to be. You know we're gonna be golden. We're gonna be growing like every other note. You know that it's our time, no fears, no lies, that's who we're born to be.
You know the movie, that's K-pop Demon Hunters, Huntrix with Golden. Also part of the music backdrop if you're heading out for Halloween and you're checking out the Salo Family light display. It's on now and, of course, continues through Friday. It's on Bridgewood Drive in Winnipeg.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
It is at 10 to 8 right now on CBC. Hopefully your Tuesday morning's going well. The rain does continue outside, just light rain. It's going to taper off. 6 degrees currently, and it will be around 9 for the day. And winds will be 20, gusting to about 40 a little bit later. Logan, I believe you still cannot get onto Keewatin here, so we've had some problems. Please call us if you have an update on that. But all lanes are now open, Route 90 in Notre Dame, so that's the update there. Right now, as you've been hearing in the news, Manitoba's premier says the province is working on 3 new mega projects. They're projected to bring in a combined $30 billion of economic activity. Speaking to Liberal advisor turned podcaster David Hurl, he hinted at these major developments.
We kind of have 3 mega projects on the horizon. One that we're almost certainly going to do, a second that we're trying to put the financing piece together, and then the third, which has been very public, is the Port of Churchill. And if we build the 3 of those out to the full extent, then yeah, I think Manitoba can become a half province, and not like 40 years in the future. I mean, like within the next 5-10 years kind of thing.
So that's a big statement from the Premier. The CBC's Bartley Kivas is here to break it down. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what does Premier Wabkanu mean by these new 3 mega projects?
Well, one of them, he says, is the expansion of the Port of Churchill, which is something that he's been talking about and has requested funding from the federal government and perhaps the private sector. And that involves a lot of different components. And that's, of course, been out in the public sphere, as he mentions. And the 2 others he doesn't get into. Now, keep in mind, Canoe is speaking to an audience in Toronto on stage with this podcaster, but he's also speaking to a national audience. If he was speaking to reporters locally, he probably wouldn't be making these general statements. So we don't know what these other 2 projects are, but the Premier did say they are energy projects. Here's what he had to say to reporters on Monday when asked about his claim on Saturday.
Well, there's going to be hopefully $30 billion worth of economic activity we bring to the province, maybe more if we get all these projects we're looking at lined up. And they are in the energy space, but when we're ready to roll things out, we'll make sure that you all are the first to know.
The first to know. I'm sure we will be.
I hope we're not the first to know, but I hope we're second. What do we know about the Churchill plan then? Because remember the Prime Minister's famous line before the Grey Cup, and then people were making jokes, when's the Grey Cup? But it's coming up. So what do we know about the Churchill plan?
We'll hear more about it. Yeah, I mean, this plan involves an upgrading of the rail line, the Hudson Bay Railway, an expansion of the port, the potential for an energy corridor. A second component that would extend energy up into Nunavut. An expansion of the port in and of itself is, let's just say, leave the energy corridor aside. Leave away the bells and whistles and get to the basic idea of an increased ability to ship goods through the Hudson Bay and also take in goods with a closer route to Europe. Always the original idea about Churchill. The hydrogeography of Hudson Bay is not an easy thing. I mean, there's one of the major national mega projects that has been approved is at Kitimat, BC. It's at the end of a long fjord, effectively, a very long bay. It's protected from the ocean. It has shipping year round. There's no ice there. And even when ships get out of that long bay, there's a ring of islands that protects the west coast of BC from the open Pacific Ocean, protecting, I'm using it in air quotes here, but it's very shallow in Hudson Bay. Dredging would be required. They might have to build a new port infrastructure off the coast of Hudson Bay into the water with an artificial island of some sort.
You're not just in open water.
You're not just, it's there are beluga whales going by. There are a lot of them. Shipping and hits with cetaceans, whales, animals in the whale species. There are a lot of practical concerns that make it not so easy. People will say, oh, Russia's got shipping through Murmansk up into their Arctic. That too is at the end of a very long fjord. It's not just exposed to the ocean. It's not that easy no matter what they do. And if they choose another area of the coast, they have protected areas planned for the west coast of Hudson Bay, and then further east is Wapusk National Park. There isn't an easy place to put a port in Hudson Bay or in and around Churchill.
And also then if the goods move, of course, the land and the rail lines, the stability to carry that kind of weight. Just for clarity for Manitobans, because they are hearing from the Prime Minister and now we're hearing from the Premier, and Is this project in Churchill confirmed to go ahead?
No. And there's a lot of different components, and it lacks the clarity. When I asked folks from Chris Avery from Arctic Gateway, okay, what else needs to be done? And there's discussions, more planning. Effectively, there needs to be some private investment. Canoe has hinted that investment may have to come from Northern First Nations, but we're talking about billions and billions and billions, billions and billions and billions built a liquid natural gas terminal at Kitimat, BC. It would take billions, potentially even more, to do this. A lot of money has to be sourced up, and it's got to actually it has to actually make sense to the private sector. Otherwise, they're not going to be part of it.
What do the PCs then have to say about this, Bartley?
Well, I told Abi Khan, the PC leader, what Canoe had said on the podcast, and here's what he had to say about it.
It's another big flashy announcement by their premier with absolutely no backing, no dates, no timelines, no plan. Just another flashy announcement.
And I want to mention here, an additional $30 billion in economic activity. That's about 42% of Manitoba's existing $71 billion GDP, gross domestic product. That would be a lot. So Canoe had said that this is going to turn Manitoba into a have province within 5 to 10 years if this all happens, as opposed to by 2040, which was the pledge he made in September, without any real kind of discussion about how Manitoba would get there. Manitoba would need a lot more revenue, period. Taxation revenue primarily, in order to become a have province and wean itself off federal transfer payments. To see that happen in 5 to 10 years, that would transformative things would have to happen. So I say to myself, what are the many other mega projects, the two that could possibly happen to generate that? And I mean, I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to play the game of speculating on air what these projects may be. I say something, people will think that's what they're actually doing.
But they have to be something that's going to bring in a significant amount of revenue if we're looking at all three of these in totality.
And it's not clear about if spending billions on a new hydro dam or energy storage or something else is going to be enough, because you spend money to make a little bit money, but Manitoba needs energy for the sake of energy. Hydro is no longer this golden goose that lays financial eggs for the province. Hydro is going to require a net influx of revenue to pay for all the infrastructure repairs that are needed and the additional generating capacity. Hydro is no longer this ATM that Manitobans can withdraw from anymore, and it's taking a lot of time for governments and perhaps citizens to realize that. Hydro needs a lot of cash. It just doesn't spit things out. Energy doesn't come for free.
Well, as Bartley mentioned, the Premier talking about Churchill, but also two other, quote, mega projects, which we have not yet confirmed what they are. He does say they're in the energy space, was his language. If you want to read Bartley's story, though, cbc.ca/Manitoba for even more detail. And thank you for coming in.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, so that's CBC's Bartley Kivas. With more from our news department, here's Heather Wells now at 3 minutes to 8.
Good morning. Well, the Union for Manitoba Nurses says nurses are stretched thin and overworked. In a social media post, the union says the Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity last week. It meant many in the ER had to wait hours for care, some redirected to Children's Hospital. Union President Darlene Jackson says the work environment for nurses is not healthy. A Winnipegger in Jamaica says they're prepared as well as they can, but still worry about the impact of Hurricane Melissa. That Category 5 hurricane is expected to make landfall in Jamaica later this morning. We're going to hear from Robert Collins in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Light rain, 6 degrees in Winnipeg. Will be at 9 today. The rain should end this morning, then a cloudy day. Notre Dame at Route 90 is clear. So, by the way, is Logan and Keewatin. So everything's cleared up now to 8 o'clock. Call us in the commuter line, though, if anything new develops and you want to pass it along. We'll pass it along here at 788-3093 on the commute line. In the next hour of the show after 8 o'clock, well, first of all, we're going to hear World Report. So we'll get the latest on Hurricane Melissa. As Heather was mentioning, we talked to that Winnipegger who's there right now in Jamaica. But then after 8 o'clock, we are going to hear more about a story that we also started talking about earlier in the show, and that is more supports for young people in this province, kids who are living with learning disabilities. After 8 o'clock, we'll hear the impact that going undiagnosed can have. We're going to talk to someone who was diagnosed at 43 years old.
Today on Q. The writer, producer, and director Judd Apatow is behind some of the most beloved comedies of the last couple of decades. The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I have a very fulfilling life.
Knocked Up, Step Brothers.
I'm ready to take on the Catalina wine mixer.
Judd has a new memoir, and he'll be here to tell you how a nerdy kid ended up changing the face of comedy.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10, 10:30 in Newfoundland,
and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Catherine Cullen. Nearly 200 Canadians are waiting for a heart transplant, but doctors here have just done the first transplant ever with a heart that had stopped beating before donation. How this could shorten the wait for a new heart. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth. People in Jamaica are being told to immediately seek shelter from Hurricane Melissa. The Category 5 storm is expected to make landfall today. Rosalie Hamilton is chair of the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance.
To prepare, it requires resources, and if you had none, you're just waiting and praying that the worst is not going to impact you.
Hurricane Melissa is so severe as it is expected to pummel the island with catastrophic flash flooding and storm surge. It could be the strongest storm ever recorded in Jamaica, and the Red Cross says 1.5 million people could be directly affected. Freelance reporter Nick Davis has more.
Hurricane Melissa is slowly turning inland towards Jamaica, but as the storm continues west, it's placed areas that were expecting heavy impact to lessen in severity and others to now face the full brunt of this Category 5 hurricane. The drift has allowed it to build in intensity over the sea and take the capital, Kingston, home to nearly 1 million people out of the impact area and the major wind field. Instead, areas along the south coast, the central rural communities in the interior and the coastal resort areas like Negura and Montego Bay are expected to see greater hurricane conditions. With much of the emergency response based around the capital, this could leave some communities isolated for days and without power for weeks.
Freelance reporter Nick Davis in Kingston. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement. He says the remains of the hostages returned, or the hostage, I should say, returned yesterday, are actually the body parts of a hostage who was recovered by Israeli troops almost 2 years ago. There are still 13 bodies of hostages in Gaza. The slow recovery of those remains is delaying the next stages of the ceasefire. Hamas says it is struggling to locate the bodies amid the vast destruction in Gaza. Israel says the militant group is purposely delaying their return. To news here at home, the Alberta government says teachers must go back to work. In the early hours this morning, Premier Daniel Smith's government passed Bill 2 to order 51,000 striking educators back into classrooms. And they used the Charter's notwithstanding clause in order to do it. Julia Wong has more.
It also invokes the notwithstanding clause to help ensure stability for the school system moving forward.
Boos and jeers as the Alberta government tables Bill 2 to force 51,000 striking teachers back to work, ending a 3-week-long strike that has kept about 750,000 students home.
I know this has been an incredibly difficult start to the school year for students who've already experienced too many disruptions.
The province will impose the last contract offer teachers overwhelmingly rejected, and it's using the notwithstanding clause to protect the bill from a charter challenge. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
And this is a unique strike. We've never had 51,000 workers off the job at the same time.
The Alberta Teachers Association is angry and exploring legal options, says President Jason Schilling.
And I'll tell you right now, if they think by what they have done here today is going to quiet down the tens of thousands of voices of teachers across this province, then they're sorely mistaken.
The Alberta Federation of Labour calls it an assault on workers' rights. President Gil McGowan says it's considering province-wide job action.
This is not a war that we chose, but make no mistake, this government has declared war on working people, not just in this province, but across the country.
The Alberta government says teachers could face fines if they do not comply. Students and teachers are expected to be back in schools Wednesday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
People who lived in what were called training schools in Ontario are suing the province. They say physical and sexual abuse was rampant at the facilities that they were essentially detention centers for children. Nearly 8 years after a class action lawsuit was launched, the case is still stuck in the civil system. As Michelle Allen reports, plaintiffs and lawyers say the lawsuit is another casualty of underfunded courts.
There was a lot of abuse, and some people were destroyed by it.
Paul Grimston says he was 13 years old when he was sent to Brookside School in Cobourg, Ontario.
The problem is that it never leaves you.
He's one of thousands of children sent to detention centers intended to straighten out children labeled unmanageable who are struggling in school or accused of petty crimes like vandalism. Former students launched a class action lawsuit against Ontario in 2017. It's been nearly 8 years. They haven't got an apology or settlement yet. The province declined to comment on the case, but denied all liability in its statement of defense. Andrew Eckhart is a lawyer at the Class Action Clinic at the University of Windsor.
We're under-resourced. We just need to hire more judges.
He says class actions like this one often take 5 to 10 years or longer. Kirk Keeping was the original lead plaintiff. He died waiting. Eckhart says this is common.
And he never ever got an apology for anything that happened to him, and it wrecked his life.
Keeping's sister, Paula Lacoste, says she wonders if the class action did survivors more harm than good.
Oh, did my brother do this for nothing? Like, did it bring up now their trauma again after so many years of shelving it away?
Lacoste says the court system needs to change. Without funding increases to hire more court staff, Eckhart says training school survivors still have a long wait ahead of them. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Thunder Bay.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is on to his second leg of his Indo-Pacific tour. He's in Singapore, where he's already met with top government investment officials. And later this week, Carney meets with Chinese President Xi Jinping. As Mira Brewster reports, the Prime Minister hopes that meeting will help reset Canada-China relations.
It's the start of a broader discussion.
That is how Prime Minister Mark Carney describes his upcoming meeting with China's Xi Jinping at the APEC summit. It's been a long time in coming. The last official meeting between a Canadian Prime Minister and China's top politician was in 2017, before relations went into a deep freeze over the arrest of a top Chinese tech executive, the detention of 2 Canadians, and before the latest trade fight, which has seen both Canada and China impose tariffs on one another over electric vehicles and canola. Carney is hoping for a reset.
Relationships rebuild over time when they have been when they have changed for the worse, and so we have a lot of areas on which we can build.
Much of what Carney hopes to accomplish, though, has the potential to be overshadowed or upended by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump is also expected to meet Xi at the APEC summit, as the U.S. and China have agreed on a framework to settle their trade dispute, a deal that could have global implications. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Singapore.
Going to go down as one of the great prime ministers you watch. Thank you.
U.S. President Donald Trump praising Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi as they arrive at a naval base. Trump is making a stop in Japan ahead of his APEC summit in South Korea later this week. A key part of this visit, beginning to build a relationship with the new prime minister, while Takaichi is also aiming to protect Japan's economic interests. Both leaders today signed the implementation of a trade agreement between the nations. It reaffirmed the earlier framework by which the U.S. would tax imported Japanese goods at 15%, and the creation of a $550 billion fund for Japan to invest in the United States. Well, it took 6 hours and 39 minutes, but the Los Angeles Dodgers now lead 2-1 over the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. Last night's game matches the longest ever in World Series history, going 18 innings. Toronto will look to bounce back and even the series tonight in L.A. Thomas Dagla has more from Dodger Stadium.
After 18 innings of baseball and in front of a stadium full of bleary-eyed fans, Freddie Freeman walked it off. Last year's World Series MVP, born to Canadian parents, Freeman blasted a solo homer to center field, claiming Game 3 for the Dodgers 6-5.
Oh my gosh, just pure excitement.
Freeman's game winner capped off a marathon that lasted longer than 2 average big league games combined. A heartbreaking outcome for the Blue Jays, who earlier in the game saw slugger George Springer leave with pain in his right side. Jays manager John Schneider.
The Dodgers didn't win the World Series today. They won a game. You know what I mean?
Amid it all, the sport's biggest star Shohei Ohtani belted 4 extra base hits, a feat unseen in the World Series since 1906. I want to go to sleep as soon as possible, he joked afterward. and no wonder. Ohtani is set to start on the mound in Game 4 tonight. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Los Angeles.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Well, the rain's going to be behind us. Boy, was it ever wet. It's still late raining downtown in Winnipeg here. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. You're on CBC 89.3 FM. Might also be on 990 AM on the app or on YouTube this morning. Wherever you're at, thanks for joining us. This half hour on the morning show, Halloween might be upon us on Friday, but a Winnipeg bakery is already thinking about Christmas. They got a special order for a Hollywood Santa in town shooting a movie. So we're going to hear all about what that's about. Plus, we're going to hear from a woman who was diagnosed with 2 learning disabilities at the age of 43. We're going to hear how that diagnosis changed her life. And it's building on a story we had on earlier where we heard from a young little girl, 9 years old, Blake Neufeld. She lives with dyslexia. She was supporting people who are lining up to say this bill should go forward in Manitoba that would require every student in this province to be screened twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3. And last hour, we heard an expert that said, you know what, we should start even earlier than that to change people's lives. So we're going to get into this half hour on the show. Right now, though, let's go to Heather Wells. She has developments on other stories with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, Premier Rob Canoe says Manitoba's planning 3 mega projects, which he says could generate a combined $30 billion in economic activity. That's more than a third of Manitoba's existing GDP. Canoe making that claim on a podcast that aired Saturday. He says one of those projects is the Port of Churchill, but would not name the other 2, saying they are related to energy. Unacceptable. That is how the head of the Manitoba Nurses Union describes the situation at the Health Sciences Centre, running above 200% capacity this past week. In a social media post, the union says there were 120 active patients. Many in the ER had to wait hours for care, and some patients were redirected to the Children's Emergency for care. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Oh, sorry, Heather. I fell asleep there. Did the Jays win? What time is it?
It would be so great if they did. You know what? Shohei Ohtani really wants sleep. Apparently, he's addicted to it.
Oh, you know what? I'm in his camp. Did you hear? He normally sleeps 12 hours a night. The Dodger.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, he's going to be pitching tonight. So
if we all slept 12 hours a night, we could be superstars too.
We could. We're already superstars on 3.5 hours.
That would mean we'd have to go to bed at 4 p.m.
It's true. It's true. That's Corey Funk. Since you're talking, why don't you just keep it rolling and tell us about
sure.
the commute?
It's actually been a very sleepy commute overall, at least in the past hour or so. Haven't heard of any major issues. If it is kind of backed up on northbound Route 90, there was a collision there earlier that has since been cleared. But other than that, though, very quiet. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you do see anything else though going on. Give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Corey is finished with traffic. Let's go to weather, Abby. I see you looking under the blinds every once in a while.
Yeah, and the rain still makes it look dark outside. It's morning. You need to get up. You're slipping in already. The rain tapering off in the southern part of the province. We're seeing light rain at the airport. The southern regions will see breezy conditions develop. We're looking at 1s and 7 degrees across the south, while up north we're seeing 0 in Flin-Flons. It's still foggy in Thompson at 1 degree, and that's the condition towards Lynn Lake and towards Churchill. We're looking at highs close to 7 degrees for the north. And Winnipeg right now, it's 6 degrees at the Forks. Light rain spotted at the airport. That should end sometime this morning. That will leave behind some cloudy conditions and light northwest winds. We warm up to 9 degrees later.
Well, as I was saying, you might have been hearing some of our ongoing coverage of our next story here this half hour, and also in the news. Manitoba lawmakers and parents right now are calling for early screening for learning disabilities. The actual bill is 225. It was put forward by Liberal MLA Cindy Lamoureux. It would require every student in Manitoba, as I mentioned, to be screened twice a year between kindergarten and grade 3. Earlier this morning, we heard from Karen Veldhuis. She's the executive director of the Learning Disabilities Association of Manitoba.
we start to see their self-esteem erode. We start to see mental health issues come to the foreground, and there's a disconnect with them wanting to show up at school, right? We start to see them having headaches and stomach aches and saying they don't want to go to school, and their relationship with school becomes very tenuous in that they don't feel supported and comfortable being in that situation. The faster that we can protect a child's confidence and get rid of years of frustration, we need to get away from the waiting for them to fail model and helping to support them before we see them failing.
She also added earlier this morning, Karen Veldhuis, Executive Director of Learning Disabilities Association Manitoba, that we also need to keep in mind that some of these learning disabilities have genetic components, but then you have older generations that we didn't live through this, right? We didn't have that kind of diagnosis at all even available. Karen actually says she would like to see some screening for kids even before kindergarten to try and help. Well, my next guest understands what it's like to be diagnosed a little later in life. Melanie Rosenfeld was diagnosed with 2 learning disabilities at the age of 43, ADHD and dyslexia, and she's in studio this morning. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like for you in school. I was listening to Karen, and I was seeing you nod a little bit to some of that. Yeah.
School was tough. When you would be having to test with the teachers to read, to guess your letters, it was a guessing game for me. It was like, oh, is that a B or a D? Is that an I or an L? And they can't prompt you because they have to see where you are.
So what was it like for you? Like when you think about little Melanie, what grades were sort of, are there moments that stand out or grades that stand out that were particularly tough because you didn't know what was going on?
I would say grade 2, more so grade 2 and 3 were probably my tougher grades. And also there would be letters that got home from school saying Melanie needs help. But my mom was also diagnosed and fighting cancer at that time. So I hid the letters because I knew they had enough going on. I didn't want to add more to their plate. And then the comments came, well, you're not trying hard enough. You're just making excuses. And how am I going to backtrack that, saying, I'm not making excuses. I just don't understand what's being presented in front of me. So then I started memorizing letters, words, because at my diagnosis, I found out I don't have phonics. I can't sound out a word. I can memorize what it says. But to sound out a letter, or not a letter, but a word, I don't have that capability.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting because I interviewed a woman years ago from Manitoba that learned to read late in life, but the way she hid her, her lack of literacy was similar. She talked about memorizing, and sort of, hiding this. What does it feel like when you're doing that and you're struggling,
It's embarrassing. I mean, when you're put in a class and you're told to read out what the word, or read out a paragraph, it's your turn. The anxiety and not only of not understanding what's in front of you, but now you're sharing it with your peers and the teasing that goes on with that. There could be a lot of elimination for kids having to feel that and taking it into their adult life.
So what's your reaction before we get into your diagnosis and what that meant? What's your reaction to hearing about this, bill being put forward and the group backing this up to for the universal screening for learning disabilities to be done, as I mentioned, twice a year and maybe even earlier?
I say, ages. Please go ahead with this. Please enforce this bill. I have a child who wanted to get diagnosed, but because of a split family, their dad wasn't into the diagnosis because he thought it was just going to be an excuse for the child. So when my child turned 18, they came to me and said, Mom, let's go. Well, they have a learning disability. So maybe if that testing was done in school, it could have helped them and they could have had a lot more support as they grew up. So please bring this in. Please help our children, empower them as they get older. School's hard enough. Put a learning disability on top of that. Here's the struggle. You're being picked on by peers. You're being made to feel dumb. You already feel like you're not at their level. So why wouldn't we empower our children? They're our future.
I love that you said, that someone in your life thought it could be a crutch because that, nobody wants that to be the case. But the reality is if there's a problem there, like you're saying, let's get it early. What did it feel like then for you? I mean, you were, as I mentioned, 43 to get your diagnosis. What was that like for you?
So it felt like, I use the word empower a lot because I felt empowered. I already knew it was there, but to hear that I wasn't trying hard enough, or, I'm just making excuses, but to have this piece of paper, which it qualified me for, qualified, that's not the right word, but it validated me. It was like, here you go, Melanie. This is who you are. And it was like, thank you. Now let me carry on with my future. I have a lot of drive. I have a lot of passion. I want to make a change. So,
what led you to get testing done? I'm curious.
So in the profession that I was first in, I had to get a professional designation. So it was 5 exams I had to write. The first 2, I had enough experience, memorized what I was doing. The third one was a struggle. So I went to both universities in Winnipeg, Red River College. I reached out to the course the institute that the course was being run by. Mm-hmm. And I said, I just need some help. Do you have in-class learning? Do you have tutors? Nobody had tutors. So I was presented with a letter that said, if I didn't get this designation by a certain timeline, I didn't have a job.
So you were facing losing your job if you couldn't achieve the designation. Did anyone around you understand that you were, memorized yourself up to this point?
No.
So who did you tell first? Or, you know what I mean? That took a lot of courage.
So I went to my family doctor and I said to her, this is my situation. I stand to lose my job, right?
Yeah.
So she expedited me, or she didn't expedite it, but she sent me to Red Ladder, where I met with Dr. Robin Legg. And I met with her at the end of September. We did an intake. I did my formal testing October 9th, and November 9th of 2020, I had my call with her. And she was like, here you go. This is who you are.
Can we just talk about who Melanie is? Because I heard you have a 4.35 GPA back at school. What helps for you now when you think of resources or even in the workplace? What helps? And there's some tech I heard that's helping too, right?
There's amazing technology. So I had to go to my current employer and I asked for permission to come and do the interview. And before she said, yes, but I just want to know, is there anything you need from us to help your job, make your job easier? And it was like, wow, right? So I have the help through school. I have the help through work. I have the help at home. So it's I always say it's my superpower. I am dyslexic for a reason, and let's help anybody who is in that same scenario.
So for those that are listening, and I'm going to ask about the adults, as you were when you got your diagnosis, what would you say to someone that is afraid to get a diagnosis? Or maybe they're thinking, okay, maybe they're doing the same thing. Maybe they've memorized their way through a lot of their life. They're thinking, I'll just carry on in this way, and something's preventing them from going. Call me,
reach out to me if you need a support. It's scary, but it's worth it. To be validated in your truth, there's no words for that. You've got the courage to do it. You've done harder things. We're built to do hard things as human beings, and to put yourself forward and be your true self. I mean, that's a power.
You talked about your current employer. I'm just curious, as an adult leading up to all of this, post-diagnosis, had you lost jobs before, had trouble holding down jobs because of this?
I jumped jobs, I would say. Yeah. So I had to leave my job where I needed that designation because there was no help. And time was ticking to get 3 exams done.
Got it.
Where you don't understand. So, yeah.
Congratulations on all of this, and thank you for being a role model and an inspiration to people that are listening for this. If you want to reach out, we're not going to give Melanie's number over the air here, but you can always call us at CBC. I'll give you those numbers in a minute. We'll pass it along. I'm grateful for you being in. Thank you for being here.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you for your time.
On CBC Live with us in studio, Melanie Rosenfeld, diagnosed with her learning disability at the age of 43. If you want to read more about the story and this bill that's been put forward to test kids younger, frankly, to screen kids at universal screening between kindergarten and grade 3 twice a year. That's what the bill says. You can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. And if you want to reach Melanie through CBC, please write to us, radio 893 at cbc.ca, radio 893 at cbc.ca.
North of North is in fashion. Literally. CBC and the WAG are partnering to present Crafted on the Catwalk November 4th, a fashion show featuring cast members of the breakout comedy displaying designer clothes from Manitoba and the North. Then shop for fine handmade goods at Crafted Show and Sale November 7th to 9th. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more, including an exclusive North of North screening and meet and greet.
8:24 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. 6 degrees out there. That is the temperature. And we do have that very light rain just kind of tapering off. People still have umbrellas up, and the windshield wipers for the most part aren't going downtown. So it's going to leave us for the day finally in a high of 9 degrees after that really wet system moving in. Well, coming up next on the show, candy corn might be in season right now with Halloween on Friday, but a Winnipeg bakery is already dreaming of gingerbread. Oma's Bake Shop on Henderson Highway, longtime bake shop in Winnipeg, recently filled a special Christmas order for a Hollywood Santa. And it's not the first time. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal has more on how those gingerbread cookies came to be involved in the film Violent Night and its sequel.
Laura Bjornson didn't know that her bakery's gingerbread cookies would be involved with the film Violent Night, let alone its sequel.
I thought it was very fun to watch such a gory take on a Santa Claus movie. Where I grew up, it's where they were filming it, so that's how I knew about the movie. And then once we got the second order for gingerbread cookies at a weird time of the year, we kind of pieced it together, and then we found out that our cookie was on the Violent Night 1 poster. So that was very exciting.
Oma's Bake Shop has been operating in Winnipeg's North Kildonan neighborhood for more than 60 years. That's how it came to the attention of a particular production service company.
Well, the woman that ordered it grew up around here, and so she knows Alma's, and she's been coming here for a long time, so she was happy to support local and ask us to make this order for her. I was browsing Blue Amber's production website, and I saw the different posters that they had done for Violent Night 1, and I saw our cookie on one of them. I was surprised. I had to do a double take to see, was that the one I decorated? But yeah, I was very excited about that.
That poster for the Christmas action horror comedy shows actor David Harbour as a slightly blood-stained jolly old Saint Nick biting the head off one of the gingerbread cookies.
For the first movie, I believe they ordered a dozen of the gingerbread men and a dozen gingerbread women. And we've been making them for a very long time, and they've got a perfect blend of spices in them that make them extra delicious for Christmas time.
This time around, it was another 24 of each, along with a few extra sweet treats.
More gingerbread cookies, as well as our chocolate pecan cookies and chocolate chunk cookies and peanut butter cookies.
Violent Night 2 wrapped up filming in Winnipeg in October 2025 and is scheduled to be out in theaters in December 2026, but Bjornson doesn't yet know how or if this batch of gingerbread cookies will make another cameo.
And I'm looking forward to the promo posters that come out because we don't know if they'll make it in, so that's what I'm excited to see. And to see the movie too.
Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So good.
CBC's community reporter Shanley Vidal, but also to videographers Travis Golby and Jason Empson for that story.
I'm Suresh Das. I've spent my career writing about the local favorites that make Canada's food scene truly unique. I bit into a chili. Woo! From vibrant street food to comforting traditional dishes.
The most important ingredients in jollof rice, love.
To innovative, personal twists. Butter chicken lasagna.
Butter chicken lasagna, that's what made it all happen.
I believe every bite tells a story. Now, I want to share those stories with you.
New series Locals Welcome with Suresh Das. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Halloween is on Friday, and today on Radio Noon, creatures creeping in the dark, an unknown figure whispering in your ear, and that spooky feeling that you are not alone. Woo! There's a lot of ghost stories in Winnipeg, or maybe it's just an unexplained story that happened to you or a friend. You want to share it? Whether it happened in Winnipeg or all the way up to Hudson Bay or somewhere along the creepy highway, our province is full of creepy stories. And that is the noon call-in today between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. So you can give a call or a text after 12:30, and we'll open the phone lines to hear all of your creepy stories. Love that. I heard one over the weekend. I golf at St. Boniface Golf Course. There's a cemetery right there, and there was a guy apparently that hit his ball, and the group went ahead. So he was back alone, and then he duffed his ball a little bit to the left, and he hit it again, and it went near the cemetery. And he said a woman sat up by a gravestone, and she said, "Oh, is this your ball?" And he got startled. And then he walked towards where his ball would have gone, and there was no one there. But he thought, well, maybe someone's visiting a gravestone. But when he said to the group of folks ahead of him that he'd been golfing with, "Hey, you guys, did you see that woman in the graveyard?" They all said, "What woman?" Between 12:30 and 1, call Radio Noon. It's all about the creep in Manitoba. Creepy stories. Right now, it's time for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It is 6 degrees, going to be mostly cloudy today, bit of a breeze, and warmer than seasonal, a high this afternoon of 9. Manitoba's premier says the province is working on 3 mega projects that will bring in a combined $30 billion in economic activity. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, Wab Canoe won't say what 2 of the projects are.
Speaking to podcaster David Hurley, Canoe said Manitoba has 3 major projects on the horizon.
One that we're almost certainly going to do, a second that we're trying to put the financing piece together, and then the third, which has been very public, is the Port of Churchill.
Canoe suggested these projects could wean Manitoba off federal transfer payments in 5 to 10 years. In a scrum with reporters on Monday, he said the projects could generate $30 billion for the province. That's more than a third of Manitoba's GDP. But the Port of Churchill expansion requires federal cash, and Canoe refused to identify the other 2 projects.
They are in the energy space, but when we're ready to roll things out, we'll make sure that you all are the first to know.
Opposition leader Abi Khan isn't impressed.
It's another big, flashy announcement by their premier with absolutely no backing, no dates, no timelines, no plan.
Canoe suggested he'll say more when he delivers his State of the Province speech in December. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Union for Manitoba Nurses says nurses are stretched thin and overworked. In a social media post, the union says Health Sciences Centre ran above 200% capacity last week. It meant many in the ER had to wait hours for care, and some were redirected to Children's Hospital. Union President Darlene Jackson says the work environment for nurses isn't healthy.
Undoubtedly, you can imagine they are exhausted and desperately seeking a light at the end of a tunnel, because it's almost impossible to continue to work at that pace without having some type of respite.
Shared Health says patient volumes at the HSC-ER were significantly higher than usual last Tuesday. An internal surge was declared after the highest acuity beds were filled. Shared Health says it understands the anxiety waiting for emergency care can cause, but it also says people should not hesitate to go to the ER if that's where they need to be. Hurricane Melissa is about to make landfall in Jamaica. People there are being told to seek shelter and prepare for life-threatening flooding and storm surge. Michael Brennan is a director at the National Hurricane Center.
This is going to lead to widespread infrastructure damage, prolonged power outages, communication outages, and isolated communities. It's going to be a very dangerous post-storm environment.
Now, a Winnipegger in Jamaica says they are prepared as well as can be expected, but he worries about the impact of Melissa. Robert Collins is in St. Andrews overlooking Kingston on the east side of the island. He says they've secured what they can on their home.
So we've removed everything from on that balcony and we've boarded it up with 2x4s and plywood. For the most part, we have just secured. I mean, everything is to really lock it down. That is really the weak spot, which is the balcony.
Collins is in Jamaica to care for his mother and sister who are both ill, and he worries they may have to evacuate. The town of Niverville is taking the Little Free Library concept to the next level. The town's first library had its grand opening last night. There is no fee or membership card. Instead, people are asked to trade in their books and come get a new one. Niverville Mayor Myron Dick.
the idea of the neighborhood, call it birdhouses, if you will, that you might see in some streets with the boxes. It was born from that idea, just more on a larger scale.
The town of 6,000 just south of Winnipeg aims to have a full municipal library. Niverville is also part of a group of about a dozen southeast Manitoba municipalities, soon expecting a proposal to regionalize library service. And the Los Angeles Dodgers came out on top after an epic 18-inning World Series game against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Dodgers winning 6-5 last night on Freddie Freeman's walk-off homer that ended a 6-hour, 39-minute marathon at Dodger Stadium. LA now with a 2-1 series lead heading into Game 4 tonight. Two-way superstar Shohei Ohtani will take the mound for the Dodgers, while Shane Bieber will be up for the Jays. And that game tonight, just after 6 Central Time. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba. You might want to nap first before you watch the game.
I think I got it wrong. I think it is 7. I checked again.
Is it 7? Okay, I'm going by you.
Don't go by me. I went by something last night on TV that was wrong, so it's at 7 again.
Okay, I was thinking, why wouldn't they give them that extra hour? I think they need it.
They do need it. We probably all need it. All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
You should always go by the news department, not by me. Let's get into what is the thank yous for the program today. Sophia Peralta-Baron producing for us today, one of our associate producers. Thank you. Also, thanks to our reporter in unit, Jim Agapito, to Bartley Kivas, who came in with his report, to associate producer Sierra Sanders, and to our community reporter, Shanley Vidal, for all their work on today's show. Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, and Heather Wells, getting it right in our news center each and every morning. Thank you, guys. Corey Funk, Abby Adiyemi, and Darren Marash, our small and mighty live team here in our Studio 15 at CBC. And big thanks to Nellie Gonzalez, the show's producer in current affairs, and Leif Larson, the senior producer of audio here where we work. Corey, last look at this commute.
Quiet commute, actually, overall, right now. No major issues to report, but write this number down if you're out there, 204-788-3093.
All right, Abby, what do we know before we go when it comes to the weather forecast?
I say it's going to be a cool one. We're seeing the rain end in most of the regions down south. Tapers off. We see most of the regions warm up to 9 degrees, and up north we'll see about 6 to 7 degrees highs there.
All right. Thanks, guys, for the morning. And thanks, everyone, for listening as well to Information Radio. Wherever you're listening from, or if you're watching YouTube, drop us a line, offer us some feedback, pitch a story, 788-3205. Also, if you offer gratitude to our guests, we'll make sure they get it. Each and every morning here, I'm always blown away by what guests share in terms of their personal stories, their convictions, and the ways they're trying to change Manitoba. Speaking of which, tomorrow's the deadline at midnight for CBC Manitoba Future 40. 40 or under, making a difference. Nominate someone today. Take care. The Current is next.